and ever-changing news, and computer terminology. Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 66 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, then this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our second batch of games from issue 30 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and was soured by Swamp Fever, kicked in the morphicals by the transforming car, and dummoned by Death Star. This week, we conclude our look at the games in October 1987, along with what was lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. So Graham, tell us exactly what we have going on in this episode.
In this budget DIY and cheap goods warehouse with low-priced plastic dog beds, dubious-looking red duvets, £3 electric screwdriver and radio combos, and bottles of something labelled garden elixir that also contains a warning that it kills all known fish of an episode, we scoot around the Starfield universe on a hunt for rogue planets in the dazzling audio-visual eye-melting mega-apocalypse, hop aboard another space fighter, this time blasting through a series of odd challenges in the simple but dull Lazer Force, and then fly awkwardly in 8 jerky directions, praying that we finally die so we can stop seeing the intro sequence in the repetitive last mission. We also breeze through the pointlessly easy opening level of another multi-part compendium of confusion in The Tube, experience life in servitude at the bequest of the Queen and her eggs in the stodgy and boring Flunky, and then bounce around like ping-pong balls in a bingo machine in the utterly uncontrollable Toadforce. If you've suddenly realised that your garden needs a bird bath water feature solar light, as well as your Hoover needing some anti-dog deodorant pellets, we also break out our small change and play some real old-school games in the pre-retro but now just retro arcade classics, shuffle and waddle around the dull mazes of shite in the dreadful Jackal and Wide, and scour the buildings and windows of New York looking for reasons to use our Tommy gun in the samey Prohibition. We also grab our cutlasses and eye patches once again and head out on the stormy seas aboard the good ship Aldi Clone in Pirates of the Barbary Coast, wander the ghost and goblins-inspired multi-level platforms looking for a purpose in the Enforcer, before finally pushing past the blocky, badly drawn graphics and awkward gameplay, looking to see if there is still meat in the claws in the ugly but playable Black Magic. It's been challenging with some of these games to say the least, like turning up to your friend's barbecue and them offering you Quorn burgers. Just smile and wave.
Cool. If I sound out of sorts, if I sound like I'm leaning one way, by the way, I'm completely blocked up in one ear. Just so. Don't do that. You've muted yourself. What are you doing?
It's all gone technically wrong. I didn't mute myself. You've gone deaf.
I thought you were actually taking the piss then. Leave this is great. No, I literally have. I went swimming at the weekend and water went in and unfortunately has not yet leaked out.
What?
So I know.
Where is it?
I don't know. I think it's somewhere swimming around my morphicals.
I don't like
but
the
it's
sound
blocked.
of that.
It's not too bad. It's getting better, but yeah. So if I sound off kilter or if I go a lot.
Or you just start shouting wildly.
Well, it's just a normal episode, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. That's been my week. But so that sounds good. I'm sure there'll be some good games in this episode and some fun film and TV.
Yes.
And I think we've also got just one solitary little crapvert.
Little single crapvert, tiny, isolated, lonely old crapvert.
It is. It's down there at the bottom of the agenda, waiting to be mocked.
We'll get to you. Don't you worry, little crapvert.
Oh, we will get to you. We will reach you. Right, let's crack on. Should we move into our first game?
Let's go.
Let's go. And Graham, we've got a sequel on our hands, a sequel called Mega Apocalypse. Tell us about
Apocalypse.
it.
Mega Apocalypse. Not just
Huge.
an apocalypse, a Mega Apocalypse. This is massive. This is huge. This is an apocalypse that has been multiplied by mega. Yeah. So this is programmed. It's just programmed, and the sound effects and everything are by Simon Nicol.
Just programmed.
Just in case you wonder who did that, Simon Nicol did this. Simon Nicol, everyone. Simon Nicol.
Woo.
No, he did
Golf clap.
Crazy Comets. So it's not a stretch, not a massive stretch,
luckily.
really. Yeah, luckily, it's not a massive stretch, really, for him to do this one, or
really.
with it being quite similar in many ways and changed in some ways. Music here is also by Rob Hubbard. The team have re-met, they've rematched, they've reformed. This is like the rebirth of another pop group. Graphics by Bob Stevenson. The graphics for the title screen are actually ace. I really like the title screen for Mega Apocalypse.
I think that's all he did. Did he do the sprites as well?
No, that's all the. I think I genuinely don't. It says
Nickel,
graphics, but I think it's everything else is by Simon Nicol. Simon Nicol, everyone. Simon Nicol, he did it. There it is. Thank you. I don't know why I'm saying thank you. I didn't do it. Find strange and exciting new worlds, Adrian, and then blast them to pieces.
Very cool.
Right, so that's the story we're done with in the plot.
Isn't that Star Trek? Oh no, it's the other thing in Star Trek, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't do. That's the opposite of Star Trek.
They don't find exciting new worlds.
So there's no real rules to this. Just kill everything and also collect things. So this is 1 or 2 players, dual allies and dual enemies. It has 5-channel sound. 5 channels, Adrian. 5.
Wow.
Which is pretty impressive because remember the old Sid only got 3. Somehow they found a way to force 2 more channels out of its tiny little orifices. We don't want to know how they did that, but they did it. They found a way.
They went muscle deep.
They went muscle deep and pushed more channels out. So amazing what you can get out of a SID chip, really, isn't it? Apparently, It utilizes 2 separate speech channels with sampled dialogue and effects. Super fast 360-degree firepower in this. Collectible pods, which you can use to enhance your spacecraft's shields, firepower, maneuverability, and speed. There's also features high score. If this didn't have that, this game would be the most pointless game of all time. So it's a good job it's got that, and Ultra Score and a Galactic Hall of Fame. Scoring's kind of all you've got here.
Yes.
So that's it. I mean, there's no more story to this. They've not wrapped it in. There is. If you go to the cassette inlay for this, it's almost like it reads like I haven't cut and pasted it, and I'm not going to read it all out. But do seek it out. Maybe I'll find something and put it in the show notes. But it's written as if you're reading it while the tape's loading, because halfway through the thing goes, is it loaded yet? Is it loaded yet? It's nearly there. It's not loaded. It's just it's just stupid. It's tongue in cheek. It's a fugazi. It's a fugazi. It doesn't matter. Because it's nothing. There is no story to this. It's a mad, frantic arcade-style shooter that has all the sounds and pizzazz that you would expect from something called Mega Apocalypse, without a doubt. Sadly and unbelievably, it hides a very, very, very boring game. So what's going on? Graphics are quite good here. Graphics, I think, are quite good. The spaceship looks good, albeit that it is a whistle, essentially, sort of a pointy whistle. But it's a good pointy whistle, I think. This is a more advanced version of Crazy Comets, and I quite liked Crazy Comets. I wasn't struck on it, because my problem with Crazy Comets is that there's not a lot to it. And it's all right in the context of an arcade. You could put your 10 pence in, because it's based on Mad Planets, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So you put your 10 pence or whatever it would be, and you just have a blast for 10 pence. Okay, you get a high score, that's that. Have I ever wanted to own that? That experience, like repeatedly do that a lot? No, I didn't want to do it with Crazy Comets. And so this is just in that kind of, they've taken Crazy Comets, they've taken it to the gym for about a year. They've been giving this thing some kind of roids and something. They've got this thing has come out of the gym angry at the world. This is shouts at you when it starts. So they've got some decent sort of powerful look and feel. This is all production, all light and no heat, as they said once in Battle Beyond the Stars. The upgrades are quite cool in this, so they float at you, and they're a bit random. And in fact, they're so random you don't really know what you're getting. In fact, it doesn't really matter as long as you can shoot and move and do that. Then this game is going to be maybe something you'll enjoy for the first 6 to 7 screens of that. But that's all it is. Planets fly in of different shapes and sizes. They kind of annoy you because they seem to just fly at you. Planets don't do that, by the way. They don't aim at you. If that was the case, we'd be doomed in the universe, wouldn't we? They're flying away from each other. But in this, they kind of fly. I think it's meant to be some kind of weaponized thing. I don't know. There's no real story to it, so it's never explained. But you've just got to blow everything up. Some of the planets are big, some of them are small. So there's big ones, small ones, some as big as your head. And there are bigger ones that are kind of bonus ones. You just got to keep shooting at them until they blow up. If you shoot them when they're small, they blow up quicker. When they get to be big, well, you've got to kind of float around and navigate around and shoot them that way. Pretty much everything in this thing moves. So you move, you can move your ship, you can rotate your ship, the planets move, they fly about. The stars in the background are kind of swirling, everything bloody moves. So, you've got no real, it's sort of everything's coming at you. It's all very in your face, and it all kind of shouts at you. But it is very, very difficult to stay alive for long in this game. In fact, I'd say probably not really possible to get beyond many levels unless you have the dexterity and reflexes of some kind of freakish bird of prey become humanoid.
An Australian pigeon
mixed with a gazelle or something. I don't know how you would have the, you'd need the 360 vision of something on this, because although there's not many of these planets flying about generally, they are crazy annoying and they will get in your way. And I don't know if you found this, maybe when you have your minutes with this, you'll say, but I found rotating the joystick around and shooting and maneuvering, it was impossible to actually do and avoid things. So I just ended up either almost sticking to the spaceship being sort of pointing upwards and shooting that way, because if I rotated it, I simply lost the plot and I just smashed into things all the time, and it became really frustrating. And not that I lived very long anyway. So the game is actually pretty boring, very hard, very samey. It's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. There's no real variation to this. The sound effects are really good because they are sampled sound effects, so the sound effects do sound nice, and the little short speeches, the speed up and all of that, really good. It's got an arcade quality presentation to this, but it inherits arcade difficulty. And since I'm not going to put 10p in this and go and play something else, I've got this for $8.95. I've got to I'd need to know that there was a point and a direction to it. I'd need to know that there was a goal, that I wasn't just going to be doing 50 levels of the same thing, and it's never going to be any variety. And that's all right for me. Those are real frustration points because the game just feels pointless. Now, I don't like the music for Mega Apocalypse, as controversial that may be to some ears. I think it's one of Rob Hubbard's worst compositions. I think it's a mishmash of sound that doesn't suit this game particularly. It keeps the pace, I suppose, but the whole thing just feels like it's got that kind of house music dance vibe that they tried. It's loads of odd sounds thrown together into the mix. It's a kind of a weird riff on the original Crazy Comets. It doesn't work. There was a couple of tunes that Rob Hubbard did that were a bit like this, where there were kind of remixes of things, and I just think it sounds horrible. This cacophony of this sort of mixed mishmash of house dance stuff thrown at you, all of this lights and action sound. It's a Frankenstein of a tune for me. I don't like it. So I don't like the tune. Graphics are nice, sound effects good. Don't like the tune. Game is dull, boring, and repetitive. And so I suppose the overwhelming thing for me is that you don't feel like you're playing a game any more than existing in a space of this world for a while and then you're dead, because everything just seems to happen around you no matter what. And all you really are is controlling a whistle for maybe 3 seconds and periodically trying to point it in the odd direction. It was no fun. I need sophistication in my shooters now. I need controllable power-ups. I need to feel that there's a progression, that I'm getting somewhere, and that it's going to lead me to a thing, to an end, to a goal. Not just I'm just going to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, because I got bored of it really quickly anyway. So I don't like it. It got 90% in Zap, and I can see why they'd give it a high rating. I didn't rate it at all. What about you?
Yeah, it sounds like it'll go a long way with all that.
Yeah, some people might like it, not me though.
It's an interesting release, this, rather than anything. It's technically, as you've noted, it's very clever. Uses a lot of techniques to produce something really that the C64, is at this point, probably shouldn't be capable of doing. It's 5 channels of sound, the speed at which everything moves around, the size of the planets, everything's fast. The Starfield, it's very technically very good. But as you have rightly pointed out, it's more Crazy Comets beneath all that tech whiz-bangery, and your enjoyment is probably going to depend on whether you liked Crazy Comets in the first place. I mean, if you didn't, then you're not going to like this, because it doesn't add much more to the mix, really. The power-ups you get are a bit of a mixed bag, and like you, I'm not sure being able to rotate works at all, since it stops you moving, and the last thing you ever want to do in this game is stop moving. You have to constantly be moving, so holding down the fire button, then suddenly fire into, I didn't like it. So it ends up like some kind of weird auto up shooter, and almost like a mobile game. It's like an auto shooter. And then when you don't collect that, when it doesn't give you that at the start, because you don't get a choice of what you collect, there's just everything fires at you at the start. And sometimes they hide a comet in there just for japes, kill you, because you can't see what's going on. It's like, I don't know. It's fast, it's competent, it's a single screen shooter, it's another version of Mad Planets. But just like you, I found it got old very quickly due to the lack of any real variety. You just do the same thing over and over, and you hope to survive. And quite often I'd die, then I respawned right in the path of something, I'd die again, and it would happen again, and game over, and that's it. And that was annoying, because I found that sometimes death wouldn't be my fault. I'd just be spawned in the path of something and be dead again. There was no flashing or anything, just dead. There's weird names for the planets, isn't there? Strange names. They go from Moon. Oh,
there is, yeah.
What is it? Right. They go from Moon to the Mega Callisto to the Mega Krypton. And then when the Mega Zothopian appears.
Biggest one.
Yeah, the biggest one.
There's the same people who named the coffee sizes in bloody Starbucks who did these planets, I'm sure of it.
Probably. I found that when that Mega Zothopian appeared, despite the technical of everything else, I found that to be quite buggy. Sometimes it wouldn't appear in full. Sometimes I had one point where it just never appeared. So I was just left there on an empty screen.
The invisible version.
Yeah, right. I was just left there on an empty screen, and there's no reset. So there's no go back to the title screen or anything that I could find. I have to press in everything. So I had to, reset the machine and try again. I don't know whether it's a problem with the emulator. I don't know. Still, if you like Crazy Comets, this is probably going to float your boat. But it is repetitive and chaotic, kind of what we said about Crazy Comets, I think. And if it's not your thing, and if, like yourself, you are looking for something with a bit more control, a bit more depth, a bit more thought to it, a bit more choice, things like your whiz balls, your nemesises, all those kind of things which have come along and shown what you can do, even your Zynaps and stuff like that, then you're gonna have to look for your blasting action elsewhere, I think. I don't know. This seems to be a game. it's another one, isn't it? Did anyone want another Crazy Comet?
No. And I remember thinking that when it came out, that was kind of the talk in the playground, as it were, was that it's like, I didn't really like Crazy Comet, so I'd just play Crazy Comet, so why would I play this thing? It was sold heavily on its sound and speech, I have to say.
Everyone was banging on about the 5-channel stuff and, look at this and that. But like you, I'm not, I thought my emulator was mucking up when the sound came on, because it's a bit all over the place now. So I went over to YouTube to listen to a version. I thought, well, I'll tell you what, someone will have ripped it, but on YouTube now, same. Like that, it starts off and then there's that chunk of silence, which is like,
yeah. I think it's awful.
I'm not a big fan of it. So no, 90%. Yeah, okay. I can see why they would give it that, but it's not something I would ever give. And even at the time, it's just this kind of like single screen craziness. Just, this isn't me, old man shouting at clouds or getting old reflex. I just remember not particularly digging it much back then. I don't think I put much time into it.
No.
Don't know. Not really a mega apocalypse. Just more of a chaotic shooter. Don't know. There we go. Interesting start. Mega apocalypse. Let's move on.
Yes.
Because we've got another one. We've got a budget title now. That last one was £9, by the way. £9, Mega Apocalypse.
£9.
£9. We've got a budget one now. This is Lazer Force. Lazer Force. That sounds like a kid. Sounds like a kid's, cartoon, which I reckon it might be.
Action hero type thing.
I reckon it might be, because Mr. Prolific is back. Yes, we have another Gavin Rayburn title.
God, Rayburn.
Where does he find the time to create all these games? I have no idea. The boy was prolific.
He's cloned himself 3 times.
Triple Rayburn.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Ace Codemasters released this, and according to the box, this is what they're presented you with. You pilot a Delta Wing starfighter of awesome destruction power. There you go. That's your story.
Don't get lost in there.
There are 32 stunningly different levels, each with 4 sections to conquer. It's quite impressive. So there's plenty to supposedly go at. What this actually means is the following. Each level is broken down into the same 4 sections with a kind of graphical makeover each time for the first section. So these 4 sections consist of the following. You have a vertical scrolling shooter where you must survive for a short period of time whilst being bombarded with enemies from both in front and behind, and also flames or claws or other things that shoot out from the sides. So the second stage is essentially Centipede, and you must destroy 4 main enemies to progress from this screen, or just die and then you progress as well. Following this is a lunar lander clone. So your spaceship now floats slowly towards the bottom where there is a landing craft that you have to sort of line up with. It's going from left to right, both you and it, and you've got to kind of control it. It's quite slow to respond to the controls. So it's quite tricky, that one. But if you do that, your next level finds you making your way as far up a tunnel, sort of vertically scrolling tunnel, in 60 seconds. And that's it. Complete these and you progress to the next set of 4, very similar, some might say almost the same stages, and so on and so on. So what we get is 4 very different types of gameplay here, all of which, kind of with the exception of the lunar lander part, so 75%, they're all pretty fast, they're well made. The lunar lander's all right, it's very simple though, and they've got pretty decent visuals and sound in this. I thought this was okay. The flames effects, especially on that first level, are particularly nice, and the variants of the first level with claws, bubbles, and loads of other different things are kind of the visual highlight here. The Centipede game really does look like Centipede. It's kind of crazy, apart from you not controlling the thing, you're controlling your ship. And the lunar lander one, and the tunnel one is fast and smooth, and whatever. The scrolling's all very smooth. It's fast. The sprites are decent. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them moving around. There's no slowdown. So from a technical perspective, I thought this is really very good. The problem with it is it's got, and I'll come to this in a bit, it gets a mite repetitive though, as the gameplay lacks any real kind of depth. You have a smart bomb as well that you can launch with a space bar, and that'll destroy anything on screen. And if you make it through the phases, there's quite a nice nod to difficulty that you can press the letters. It says you can press the letters A through to J, but I think it's B through to J. This is on the instructions, and you can then start at the different levels. So you don't have to start in that opening one. If you can sail through that without losing lives, you can start higher level and test yourself quite well. And if you do start, so B starts you at level 4, I think, and so on. And if you do start at J, good luck, because it's rock hard. There's also a demo mode as well, but the player in the demo mode is really shit, really, really terrible. But there's a nice title screen. It's got scrolling text and everything like that. It's nice, presented well. Now, strangely, this got 32% in this issue. I think that's a travesty. Swamp Fever got 54%. Morphicle got 58%.
Strange.
This is back ass. This is no way near like only half as good. It's twice as good as any of them, which obviously would get it over 100%, but just means that Swamp Fever and Morphicle were so far overrated. This is a pretty decent budget title. It's well presented. It all works. It's technically good. It looks okay. The music's quite nice that Rayburn's done. And for £2, I think you wouldn't be disappointed in this. You'd be like, oh, this is all right. This is £2 worth of game. It's better than I thought it was going to be. It's fast. It looks the part. The levels progress nicely in difficulty. And like I said, you can try this out yourself. Just press a letter and start on a higher difficulty level, and you can see them getting really difficult. Yeah, pretty good. It just lacks a little in the overall game design and the player's journey through it because it just gets repetitive. You're just kind of doing the same thing, just in more difficult scenarios and situations. But I think what you can see here, Gavin Rayburn, he is getting much better as he's going along, getting technically a lot better, and the games are getting more interesting from what we had before. So I was pleasantly surprised with this one. I thought this was okay. I enjoyed my time having a bit of a blast on this. It can get repetitive, like I said, but at £2, this is good budget fodder. What about you?
It was a bit crazy, this, wasn't it? A bit of a crazy thing. Left me quite confused, really. Quite frantic. There was, each of the 4 levels that you sort of just blast through, I suppose, or, they were pretty simple and a bit dull, maybe. I like the graphics, like you. I think the graphics are the highlight, really, for this, and the sort of production values are quite high here, especially for the price. And the colours are nice, and the sound was really in your face, kind of loud, it had all those components, which are all going for it. Just, it perhaps is a bit derivative, but it's hiding those production values, hide what is a pretty derivative and dull shooter game, which is leaning on lots of other games that are better, but they're not cheaper. And it's a coherent experience in that you're just playing this for what it is. I wouldn't say I was, a bigger fan as you of it. I was not. I mean, for £2, all right. It certainly does. It certainly deserves more than 32%. It at least deserves to be above the really crappy budget games for a start. Yes. So that's definitely wrong. There's no doubt about that. And I suppose the benchmark for this being that it's a fully functional game, it hasn't been freeze framed from some other format, and it hasn't.
Yes.
And all the other problems we've encountered with some of these crappy other games, and probably some in this one, is that at least it's it might be a bit weird and it might feel a bit bolted together in places. But it's $1.99, and you'll get a good couple of hours of Sunday afternoon out of this, no problem. It passes that kind of Sunday afternoon test, which perhaps we haven't really enforced for a while. That's probably because all the other games would never have made it to Sunday. They would have just been burned in a fire before you got there. So I thought I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was bad for $1.99, and it certainly deserved more than 32% as a review.
That's where I am. I don't think it's brilliant. I think it's £2 worth of four different types of games that you repeat.
I mean, some of the games are better than others. I liked like you said, the Centipede game was one of the better ones. The sort of land your spaceship on the docking thing was a bit crap, but it's £2, and the graphic variety is actually pretty good. There's some real odd graphics in it. I think that's why I say it's kind of crazy. When you first start this thing, it's a bit kind of all over the shop.
Yes.
But there is at least a playable thing, and it's it isn't going to sort of suddenly quit itself at the end of the first level and go, where's the disc or anything like that.
And it also does that thing as well that if you die while going through that first level, your progress is constant, so you don't have to do it all again, even though you can't tell because the level's it doesn't actually look like much level design. The distance you're traveling is constantly going towards it, so if you've gone halfway and you die, you still only have halfway to go rather than putting it back at the beginning. So I thought that was quite a nice touch.
And judging by the output from Mr. Rayburn, he probably pooped this one out when he was on the toilet. He probably just sat down and coded this in the bog. So he's prolific if nothing else. So perhaps he wasn't fully concentrating when he was making all of it.
Well, it's not it's not the last Gavin Rayburn title we'll see this episode.
No, but I think this is definitely conceived in the toilet game. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's probably not as fully thought through because at a certain point he was concentrating on something else.
Oh, there you go. Lazer Force. So yeah, it's all right.
Have a look. Don't let those Zapticians fool you with their silly percentages. Their budget reviews for this particular episode and this episode. So this issue of Zap have been absolutely obtuse. I don't think they've played half of them. I can't see it, but that's just my view.
Yeah, I'm the same. There's no way they can get lower than Morphicle. No way.
Or Swamp Fever.
Swamp. Yeah, awful stuff. Anyway, there you go. Lazer Force. Not too bad. £2. Let's move along. Graham, I'm very sorry to tell you this, but you are going on your last mission.
No, £9.99's worth of last mission.
Compare this to the last one.
This is Data East, copyrighted, produced by, published originally. I don't know. It's Data East. Code. I think it's Data East US Gold, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Coded
an
by
arcade game, yeah.
Keith Purkis. That's Keith. It's a knockout Purkis.
Yay!
Yeah, music, of course, Dave Whittaker. We'll come back to the music because there's just a familiarity to all this Dave Whittaker music in this episode. Anyway, you've been banished, Adrian, from the galaxy by invaders. Just invaders. Invaders. And as the outcast, you must infiltrate the enemy starbase and destroy their HQ to free your people. So you've been banished. They've been captured, I think, is if they're being held. Anyway, you're not expected to survive this. Hence the reason it's your last mission. So it's one of those ones. Go and do something for us. All right.
I'm surprised you're not asked to get some surveillance.
Yeah, see you later.
The rigger now. Take some photos while you're dying.
Take some photos while you're dying. See you later, maybe. And we won't see him again. The game starts, and you control one of 4 spaceships across an 8-way scrolling 16-sector backdrop. You scroll around and must blow up land targets. You will be attacked, and you must avoid the enemy's installations to survive. You can pick up smart bombs, or smark bombs, as I've written for some reason, but they're not smart. They're smart. They're not very smart. From the remnants of some of the destroyed land targets. Call them buildings or something. Just land targets just seems so... Just seems a bit, just call them something. Put an effort in here. Come on.
Constructions, buildings, huts,
they don't do that in the military,
factories.
do they? What's the mission? What's the mission on this bombing mission? Well, just go and bomb some land targets. Which ones? Well, just the ones that are on the land. You're asking too many questions.
Anything that's got a target on it.
Yeah, and if you see them, pick up a few smart bombs. So you can do that in the game. The main display is your game area in this. So you've got with the surrounding UI, so it's kind of around the edges, that indicates your number of lives or enemies remaining because you have to shoot so many. A weapon type that you might have, which has no bearing on anything that I could possibly grasp. Anyway, I don't know if there might be other weapons. I didn't find any, at least knowingly. Your current sector and your score. So the graphics in here are a bit basic, and that is the game, by the way. So you're just kind of rotating around a thing, shooting the land targets until you make it to in each sector until those 16 sectors are cleared, and then that's it. You've freed the people, and that's the end of that. You'll never get there, though.
You're no longer banished, I guess.
You're unbanished. You come back now. But you said it was my last mission. Oh, yeah, I forgot about it. Don't come back. You're not welcome. We sent you because we didn't want you.
We banished you, and we sent you the last mission. Yeah. How clear do we need to make this that we don't want you back?
Yeah, were we not clear? So the graphics are very basic, but I suppose okay. The backdrops are quite dull, livable, but they are dull. The controls, though, are a jerky 8-way affair. Instead of the usual rotation that these games give you, sort of smooth 360 rotation, this has got a really odd control system where you just point in the angular direction you want to go, which we've said before that'd be great if they did that. It isn't, though, because it's not the way these guys did it, because it just kind of jerks around. I mean, it just means jerk. They need to go north, jerk north. They need to go sort of south, jerk south. It's just the screen sort of visually sort of judders a bit when you go in different directions. I'm just not sure that they thought this through properly when it comes to smooth and scrolling. So instead of that, let's say that usual rotation, you got this kind of 8-way judder control. The enemies seem to float about with no logic and whatsoever. They just kind of float about, collide with things, and you get this really annoying elongated intro section each time you die and respawn. Every time you die, this it's just like a mini playlet that has to happen, and you're like, when you got 4 lives, so by the time you get to the second time this is happening, you're like, oh, come on. No, I don't want to see it again. Can I skip it? No, you can't skip it. You're going to watch it every time.
Like, can't be skipped.
You can't be skipped. So at a certain point, you want it to be the last time. You're thinking, please let this be the last bloody mission. I don't want to have to see that again. The music is yet another dull Dave Whittaker 40-second loop, which I suppose is engaging enough in this game. Seems to reappear later. The main issue here is the game seems to favour collision of enemies, and so the game seems to favour the collision of enemies, so they seem to be colliding with you, and you don't seem to be able to avoid them properly, and the controls don't help with that. And then every time that happens and you die and you get overwhelmed, you're back to that stupid respawn sequence, which makes your eye twitch and you start to get full on angry with it. The whole thing lacks proper polish, and it feels like it needed more development time. It doesn't feel finished to me, this. It feels like there was some issues. Like somebody said, shouldn't we make that scrolling smoother? I'm like, that involves possibly scrolling things and, just judder it around. Judder. I mean, you don't control your car like that. So I don't know.
Ford judder.
Yeah. I just think it either needed more development time, possibly a more confident developer behind it. Because if this is based on an arcade, then I don't imagine the arcade is. I imagine the arcade is probably smoother, but possibly dull. I don't know. I didn't look into seeing if this. I didn't look into the arcade at all. I wasn't overly impressed with this. It's £10, which is a lot of money for this sort of thing. And there's loads of games like this that do this better already. Like Parallax. Parallax is better than this, and it's the same sort of idea. I just think that the end result was worth £10, and that very, very good. Zap gave it 49%. I'd give it slightly less. I don't think it was a very good game at all. It's budget. You might have got away with 49% as a £1.99 game for this, but no. If it was the last mission, I can see why. It certainly was my last mission with that.
True.
Glad to see the bloody back of the bloody and that stupid intro sequence, and everyone will see it again for the rest of my natural life.
It is similar. I mean, I had a look at the arcade port, the arcade original, and there is a track sequence in that where it's like a spaceship supposed to fly across, but in the C64 version, it's just a splat. It just flies across, and it's not very good. Anyway, this is another Data East craptastrophe, and a port of a pretty poor and derivative arcade in the first place. So I'd never liked the original arcade. I thought it was not very good, and it's not particularly great. So it was never going to be a winner when the original was dire in the first place. It's a poor rip-off of Time Pilot, so it's that. It's you go back to the original with a multi-directional scrolling, but this version only allows you to aim in 8 directions. This means lining up any shots is a pain in the ass.
Just a bit.
And it lacks the ability. In the arcade, you could kind of flick sort of, if you were flying to the right or left or up or down, you could kind of flick a little bit, so you could kind of flick your bullets a little more to the left and right, so you could kind of get a bit more spread on your shots. Obviously, that's gone in this version, so you can't do that. So it's kind of reminding me of, what was the other one? Jailbreak, where you couldn't run diagonally, and just removing those kind of abilities from the arcade renders the playing of it a pain in the ass. The music is a pain in the eardrum. Just to say, by the way, Lazer Force, that was a Dave Whittaker piece as well. We're in for a Dave Whittaker triple treat here, because the next one is as well. But Lazer Force had decent. Yeah, Lazer Force was a decent tune. This one, interesting. This one, we'll come to it a bit later. I thought music was a pain in the eardrum. And I found as well that you had different speeds, whether you moved up, down, or left to right, or a diagonal.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help matters. So, and also the fact that you die when hitting the crappy explosions that are left behind. You don't just die, do you? You kind of do that spinny.
Don't.
Oh, the spinny death sequence where you still think you're in control, but you're spinning and you're not, and you're dead.
Yes,
and then you have that intro again. Oh, spinning. It's just a crap icing on a crap cake. It really did turn into my last mission very quickly, just like you, with the off switch being pummeled quick, smartish. This game should be banished, is what I think. 49%. I mean, I compare this to the last one, which got 32, and it's all wrong.
Yeah, there's something going on.
I'd rather play Lazer Force than this.
Yep.
But yeah, last mission was it's just a bad port. This is in those line of games that we looked at, like what's that crappy floaty jump one? Legend of Cage, was it?
Oh yes.
It's just in that kind of category. It's like it's an arcade game. Quick, convert it. No thought about is it any good? I don't know. We bought it. We just bought a load of them, so get them converted quickly. And there's no thought to this. It's just get them out, get them quick, get them done, get some. Get people thinking it's like the arcade, which they won't like. So last mission. No. Let's move on. And our next one. This is. I'll speak about the music in this. This is the Tube. The Tube. This is the Age of the Tube. This was £9. This came from, who made this? I forgot who made it. I can't remember. I'll have a look.
I didn't write it down. Anyway,
calamities come in threes, and in this game that could apply to the levels. But let's get to that in a bit. You pilot the good ship Tracker 2. We don't talk about what happened to the Tracker 1, not around these parts. It's just a bar with your spaceship is just a bar with nuts and nuts and chocolate chips.
Quicksilver, by the way.
It's Quicksilver, yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah, how could I forget? But unfortunately, your Tracker 2 has run out of fuel. It has been sucked into a black hole and spat out right next to the Tube, which is a huge alien device that is responsible for disposing of space waste. So I thought to myself, what exactly is space waste?
Do you really want an answer to that?
Well, like we said before, space is massive.
Yes.
So the likelihood of coming across some space waste is optimistic at the best.
It's astronomical.
It's beyond, it's beyond winning the lottery.
Yeah, just a bit.
Anyway, you get sucked into the Tube, and what follows is a mini game compendium. We've got another gun, so like last Lazer Force, whatever. We've got 3 different types of games here. So the title screen when it starts is it's just a mash of stuff.
It was a bit.
It's just an overwhelming mash of just things. It's got a scrolling message and many UI elements that don't mean very much, and 2 circles rotate chasing against each other at the top. We also have another Dave Whittaker tune, and this Dave Whittaker tune sounds exactly like the one from Last Mission. And I mean exactly.
Like
it's exactly like it's like he turned in the same piece of music. It may have sent them the wrong file, I think. So the first part of this game sees you being sucked into the anus of the tube as various sprite clagnuts fly at you, and you can shoot them if you choose.
Ew.
That's what it looked like to me. Getting through this part leads you to the next zone, which is the defense mechanism tunnel, which I suppose was what you'd get if you flew into an anus, which strangely resembles Scramble to my eyes. Get through that, and it's onto the capture area, where you must fly around and hook your ship up to previously captured craft and suck the life out of them to power up your ship. Do that, and it's back to the beginning. That's it. That's the 3 games. So 3 games. Do we have a triple treat or a treble terror? Unfortunately, it's the latter, as this game has problems, and many of them. So let's look at the first part. You don't have to do anything. and I literally mean that. You can put the joystick down and just wait for the distance. So you have distance to count down to 0. So what you have is this 3D effect, like this grid, as you fly over this grid and sprites come out. And you kind of have a sort of like part of the screen is kind of your viewpoint, and you can move that left or right, and you move that by moving your cursor, which is what you use to shoot these clagnut sprite things that come flying at you, but you don't need to do any of that. It's just rubbish. So these irrelevant sprites fly at you, they get splattered on your windscreen if you do anything, but it doesn't matter because your energy is so high that it starts from like 7,500 your energy and counts down as you're flying, and with every hit you lose a bit. But by the time I got to the distance, which counts down from 300 or something to 0, I was still at energy of 6,000 and I hadn't moved the joystick. So there's a fundamental gameplay wrong. I hadn't put any cheats on or anything. My energy was going down, so I don't understand it. But getting through that will lead you to the scramble section, and here they've obviously realised that the game was too easy and literally catapult you into the scenery for instant death. But it speeds you up and straight into it, and if you don't move up, you're dead. Yeah, yep. I don't understand why anyone thought this was a good idea, but you have to push up as you get catapulted, and then you have to try and make your way through the single colour defence mechanism tunnel as bombs fall and missiles fly from the floor. You played Scramble, you know the deal. It's that, but except just through a very narrow corridor, and with no thought to the player. Death puts you back at the beginning and will sap your actual energy, your bodily energy, your energy of wanting to get further, because why would you want to sit through the boring opening sequence section again should you fail? Because it's just dull. If you do make it through, the third section is a top-down upward scroller as you kind of control it. You try and find downed spaceships that look like yours from the top. You interface with them. You complete a boring puzzle. You leech off their energy. Again, the use of colours are poor, and it looks like a Spectrum game throughout. Its use of colour, its title screen, everything looks Spectrum-esque. None of the 3 games are particularly enjoyable because the first one's not even a game. It's not anything. You walk off. It's well programmed. It all works, but there's nothing to hold your interest in any of the 3 sections and encourage you to want to persevere with this. The swing from no challenge at all to instant death in the next section shows once again that there was little in the way of testing going on, and despite the 3 sections actually working, they're dull and pointless to play through. So yes, a treble terror. I didn't think this was particularly very good. I didn't note down who programmed it. I don't think there was any information on it. Maybe you did. I can have a look. But I didn't enjoy this. Did you enjoy the tube? Your trip down the tube?
Oh, the music was familiar, wasn't it?
Very.
There's some nice technical touches to the code in this, and especially in the first level, albeit that there's no point to it.
Yes.
But the way the way that you fly forwards and the kind of the way you move your screen around and shoot at the things, even though there's no point in doing that. I quite like the way that played. It was just pointless, which is unfortunate. Moving the control window was quite satisfactory in that kind of way, and you got kind of a nice sense of pace. You could have made a lot more out of that, but they didn't.
They made nothing out of it.
So exactly. So you just kind of float through that, and then you get to the annoying Scramble clone. And it's like I said, it's not immediately obvious that you need to push up initially. So you're going to die at least a couple of times before you think, oh God, I've got to push up straight away because like you say, you catapulted into the scenery. It's like stupid. Don't do that. Don't make games start like that.
No.
Because it's really stupid. The graphics and like you say, and then when you get to the next stage, if you can be bothered, really, after you've gone past the scramble bit, but if you can bother, I didn't think much to the next part after that either. It was all a bit. By the time I'd got there, I thought, is this it? Is there going to be more of this? What am I doing? The graphics are a bit basic. I suppose you could call them passable. Really, they're not. There's not much to them. I mean, the effects are better than the graphics, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly in the first section. The second section where you've got that weird thin sort of monochromatic almost version of Scramble with what looked like a mini space shuttle, which is not very nice in the 80s to make space shuttles be blowing up in games. It's unfortunate, really.
Yeah.
So it threw you back to the beginning of the tunnel, didn't it? Every time he died as well, which is a bit annoying. You're going to lose, when you lose your lives, it's right back again, and you got to go through the, the pointless section again. It just, for me, it was loads of ideas that were bolted together that just didn't. There was no rhyme or reason to put these things together into a coherent tube. The tube was just some kind of weird way of connecting something that they thought, oh, look, how can we connect 3 random game ideas together? I don't know, put them in a tube. Oh, yeah, that'll do. Yeah. So I don't know why. You can't do that. No, that's the reason why they didn't put all the Star Wars movies in just in a giant tube. Right? Just put them in a tube. You can't just cram things together in a sequence, and it doesn't work. And this nice tech touches here and there, but there's nothing to this, is there? It doesn't work. It doesn't gel together. There's no coherency to it. So it feels empty and it feels disjointed. And that meant I didn't like it. I wouldn't have liked it even if I'd have heard of it before, which I hadn't, but I certainly wouldn't have liked spending £8.95 for that. So no, Zapped gave it a week 54. I would say that's about right, but I feel maybe it's a bit high. Again, we're looking at some of the games that should have got better and didn't. I don't know. The reviewing scores are all over the shop in this episode, and this issue of Zapped and this episode to some extent as a reflection of that. But no, I didn't enjoy it. So no, the tube can tube off. No.
Yeah. It reminded me of like a worse version of that other weird one that you kind of liked, Sigma 7, which had that triple sort of section thing to it.
The game's better in that.
Sigma 7 was way better, but that kind of triple, stage thing.
Idea, yeah.
Yeah. Just to say, it was programmed by Martin Gannon, who done anything else according to Lemon 64, with graphics by Mike Donnelly, who you remember from such games as Agent Orange and Nether Earth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, remember them.
We remember them, yeah. So there you go, just to sort of say who did it. Not very good. I didn't like the trip down the tube. No one does.
No down the tubes.
Down it. Let's move on quickly. Surely it's got to get better. It has to get better, surely. Does it get any better, Graham, as a flunky?
Flunky? Well, no. No, not really. Just no point in me trying to sugarcoat this pill. No. This is coded by Don Priestley. You remember Don Priestley from such amazing games as Trapdoor and Popeye. Now, I quite like Trapdoor in its own special way. And Popeye, well, I didn't really enjoy that. But Don Priestley has a look and feel to his games. Let's call it the Don Priestley engine. And this is a sort of an arcade adventure 2D style. It's basically like a royal family retelling of Trapdoor and Popeye in a kind of way. So in this game variant, you have found yourself a job as a flunky, which, by the way, is a liveried manservant or footman at Buckingham Palace, which, of course, is the Queen's house in the UK, where she lives in Queens.
Liveried?
Yeah, liveried. Yeah, liveried, as in somebody with livers, I guess. Somebody that wears nice clothes. Anyway, liveried.
Covered in liver.
Yeah, just a lovely liver. I don't like liver.
His best mate is Max Bacon.
Anyway, so here as the manservant at Buckingham Palace, you are at the mercy of the UK royal family. In this instance, namely the Queen, Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, Prince Charles, and Princess Diana. Bit dated. Times have changed a bit nowadays.
Yeah.
Some of those people have changed their public persona. Some of them have sadly died. So, as is the norm for Don Priestley games, you have to complete a series of tasks throughout the palace, or throughout the dungeon, or throughout wherever you are, as a giant character walking around lots of 2D landscapes. So, first on the agenda in this game, light all the fires with your matches. So you've got to go and light all the fireplaces. Some areas you don't generally light fireplaces with matches, not the way they do it in this game anyway. Some areas of the palace require to have the right authentication / signature of a royal family member to enter. So you need to find these as well, or complete missions to get them. And then you can use those to access certain parts of the palace, or if you don't have those ones and you wander in front of a soldier who guards some of these areas, you're going to get shot and lose one of your 5 lives.
Seems a bit harsh, that.
Yeah, well, I'll come to this. I'll come to that in a moment. But yes, it is. Yes, yeah, it is. If you go into the wrong area of Buckingham Palace, I feel sure that they don't kill you. I feel sure as an employee, it would not look good generally. It's just. I'm pretty sure that they're not that barbaric in the old Buckingham Palace. Anyway, so. As you travel around this 2D version of Buckingham Palace, which is kind of in that kind of Don Priestley way, so the graphics look a lot like Popeye, Trapdoor, that kind of 2D face-on, very big kind of sprites, not sprites, like characters that are animated from however he does it, whatever magic in the Don Priestley engine that does that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So you're going to cross some of these royal family members. To come across royal members, you'll be in a whole different situation, but you come across some royal family members. And obviously, you've got to complete some really odd tasks for them, and that's in order to get signatures. And so you've got to fetch Prince Andrew a toy boat for his bath. So when you go in the bathroom, you'll see him in the bath. It's all a bit odd. You've got to get a wig for Princess Diana, for example, and stuff like that. Freckles for Fergie. Anyway, so you complete those 5 tasks, and once you've done all of those, you get these 5 signatures that you need to enter the Queen's chamber, which isn't like Aliens, by the way. So you can't go in there where she's just...
that'd be brilliant if it was.
She's just thunking out loads of eggs. Who's laying all these eggs? Well, hey, there's another one. Thunk. Thunk.
Get away from her, your honourable bitch.
Get away. Shoo, I say. Anyway, it's not that kind of Queen's chamber.
That would make Charles and think Aliens. Which, maybe
that could have given this game a sci-fi twist it needed.
It probably could have, yeah.
So, and then you can complete the final task, whatever that might be, and then upon doing that, you're no longer a flunky, and you can go about your retired life or get another job. So, in other words, all of that effort in this game and you end up unemployed. Seems really negative. The whole thing seems doomed.
Seems like a comment on the 80s to me.
The way they pitch the game is that you're rescued from unemployment by this flunky job. Then, when you actually go through and complete all your royal tasks, your reward for that is to get fired at the end. Now, thank you very much. Off you go. Oh, all right. Okay. Well, so much for being a flunky then. Thanks. I'll go be a manservant somewhere else, you bloody egg-laying cheeky monkey.
Alien.
So the view is similar to all the other games of this type, with large, slow-moving characters in that kind of 2D screen depth, so you can move forward and back, front to back in this game.
Back and to the left.
Now, historically, all of these games have always had the same problem. They're slow and ploddy. This one isn't that much different. There's parts where it's quicker. That's actually in part because some of the palace it doesn't display. It just sort of shrinks the screen down to a small section, and it goes quite fast through those small sections. Surprise, surprise, when there's less on the screen, it draws quicker. Who knew that was a powerful thing to do? But it doesn't help. So in some parts of the palace, you don't get the full screen, and I suppose it's a nice trick if you can put up with that. The mainstay of the game is wandering around picking things up and completing the tasks with objects that you either have to find or pick up or whatever. It's basically like Trapdoor. If the Queen shouted from upstairs going, "Fetch me my slippers," and then you have to wander around as a flunky trying to find it, would be Trapdoor, this game. It would be basically Trapdoor.
It would be, yes.
So it's not dissimilar to that. It's clearly another Spectrum cum Commodore game. So this is obviously, I think it's the port from the Spectrum version, or at least there must be it looks kind of Spectrum-y, even if it perhaps, I don't know if it is, or this is the originating one. I don't know the full lineage because I don't really want to know. But more, it does have a Spectrum-y look. When the characters go over the background, they do kind of have blocks around them. They're not terrible graphics for this kind of thing, I suppose. But I don't think they're amazing. They're big and bold, and they do look quite funny, I suppose. And I think the intention of this game was for it to be some kind of side-splitting commentary. I don't get it. The humour is kind of, I suppose there's maybe subtle humour in some of the caricatures of things and maybe the situations, look, Prince Andrew's in the bath. But nowadays that has a whole different connotation, so you probably wouldn't want to think about that. But either way, at the time, I don't know that any of those situations would be, would have you howling and rolling around on the floor in laughter because, you've got to enter the Queen's chamber. I don't know quite what the funny bit is, but anyway, so it's dated badly, obviously, given the current state of affairs with the royal family and everything else, and the characters in the game and all the rest of that stuff. It's that's not going to make this game any great shakes. They do these games when they do this kind of thing date very quickly when you see that kind of thing. The sound is super basic, not much there. There's nothing terrible here. There's a little bit of music at the beginning, but nothing great. Just a bit of for me, it was a reskin and a rehash of something that he's done several times before, and they weren't that interesting then. The best of those was Trapdoor, but we criticised Trapdoor for not having much anarchic fun and stuff about it. So hey, you've set a game in the most stuffy environment possible, and you still don't manage to get any anarchic fun. You just put some odd characters in silly situations, and only 5 of those. Maybe it's for Don Priestley completionists. This one, maybe we may as well get this one. We've got all the other Don Priestley games. Maybe there's people out there that actually have those words in their mouths and have fallen out. I don't know. Not me though. It's quite a big map, I guess. So mappers might get a bit of a giddy on for this if but it'll appear in Zap in a couple of weeks. I don't doubt. I didn't hate it, but it's the right score from Zap for this for once. And for me, I never really dug any of the Don Priestley games. I tolerated Trapdoor because I quite liked Trapdoor, but I don't really like these games. I find them slow, ploddy, and meandering. And I think the joke was wasted on me anyway here. I just made my own jokes up in the end. So no, not for me this one. So I didn't enjoy being a flunky. No. What about you?
No, I don't want to be the butler to the royal family. I don't. So, and as games are generally about wish fulfillment, this is about as far away from my wishes as it's possible to be. Here we are, flunky to the royals. And royals of the 1980s, and I don't think this game has aged well at all. So walking in on Andrew in the bath made me turn coattails and leg it as fast as I could. I wanted no part of that nonsense.
No. Absolutely.
I also found that the idea that Fergie's freckles were drawn on and Princess Diana wore a wig, I thought that was a little mean.
It's just weird, though.
It's also a little mean because it's sort of playing on that sort of, women need their looks and everything and have to have a certain way to them.
Yeah, never even thought of that. But
Which is, I thought, because both of them, both of the tasks for those are, make them look nicer.
Yeah.
Whereas the boys, bring me a boat and fetch my balls, which is what Charles wants. And maybe that's a comment sort of thing on the fact that he, he not stands up to anyone. I don't know. But don't forget, this is coming out in an age of spitting image. So
yeah, that's what I mean. So it lacks any of the humour.
So we're long past the sort of point where the royals were not fair game for being made fun of.
Yeah.
So spitting image is, I'm pretty sure, out by now, and they were being well and truly, sent, as you said, lampooned. The visuals, as you said, they're speedier than Trapdoor. That's because there's less of them on screen. But it's the same. But it's the same gameplay we saw there. So if you dug Trapdoor, you may like this. Obviously, you'd like the more, so maybe not. I don't know. But if not, then pampering to the royal family is a very big no from me. No matter how big you make the characters and how guffarsome you try and make it, no. If they'd have made the Queen an alien thunking out eggs with
and
those
we're not
kind of
saying that she is or isn't, we'll just be clear about that.
with those kind of character sprites, then I would have been into this much more. Called it Ripley rather than Flunky. Yeah, we could have been talking then. 10 quid for this. Oof.
A lot in it.
It is a lot. Yeah, I didn't like this. Slow, boring, large characters, royal family. No thanks. No, thank you. No, not for me. There we go. Flunky, flunk off as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Got one more left. Let's move on to it. So, this is Toadforce, and it's another budget title from another one of our regular creators. These two must be just responsible for about 90% of the games we've looked at recently. It's it's a bounce-a-thon, this one, another budget bounce-a-thon. It's not supposed to be, though, but it makes her way to our screen courtesy of Mr. Carl Hornell. Carl Hornell, ladies and gentlemen. Carl Hornell.
There he is.
Carl Hornell. Carl Hornell. He did Cleanup Service, Cleanup Time, Fungus, and all those other kinds of stuff. He's got that look. Let's get the obvious out of the way, okay? This looks nice in the way that Carl Hornell's games always do. He's got really nice sprites. He's got a really nice graphical style that he does in all his games. They all look like that. The backdrops are nice. The music's okay as well. Yeah, production-wise, this is punching above its budget price, I'd say. Kind of like that Lazer Force was, but it's showing up other people that look what can be done for £2. The problem is all that. What is the game? Well, according to Moby Games, which is the only place I can find some kind of write-up on this, you are a biomechanical fighting toad, and you've been sent to a planet containing the central computer to an advanced defense system to destroy it. And in order to do this, you must think you've got to make your way through 5 scrolling levels that sees you start on the surface, then make your way underground through gaps in the ground and reach the computer or something and blow it up or destroy it. You've got to make your way through this stuff. I can't really attest to any of this because control on this is an absolute nightmare. An absolute nightmare to control this damn thing. You bounce off everything that is solid. Everything. You cannot slow down properly to get through the gaps, and if you do, you get killed by the various enemies that rain bullets down upon you. This is a nightmare. This was literally a controlling nightmare. The top half of the screen is where the game is played, and I said, looks nice, got smooth scrolling, good use of color. But the bottom half of the screen is a really overcomplicated UI. It's got thermometers on the sides of it. Then an over amount of info. You've got your score, high score, the level you're on. You've got bars for H2, O2, and PU, which I think is hydrogen, oxygen, and PU is that lead? PB in it. Poo. You got the poo bar. Don't overfill the poo bar.
God's sake, no. Sometimes you need to empty it.
Potassium. What's PU? It's a chemical element for something. And then a final one for power. You've got all this information at the bottom of here, and I don't know what any of it meant. I think you can collect stuff to top these bars up. I don't know. If you get any to 0, I think you're dead. Don't know, because all I could do is bounce. And I'm not supposed to be bouncing. I'm controlling a toad in a spaceship or something, I think, and trying to shoot stuff and navigate these worlds, but I can't. It feels incredibly overcomplicated. And once again, untested, because it controls like a ping pong ball. Nobody wants a game that controls like a ping pong, or not ping pong ball, a power ball. It's like just lobbing a power. You ever lobbed a power ball around your house or something like that, or around somewhere with wood, wooden room
once.
And you just like that, and suddenly you end up, my eye. That's what this felt like. And we've seen a few games where the difficulty comes from bouncing off stuff, but this takes it to a whole new level. Also, as well, and this is never a good thing, it reminded me of that Swamp Fever game in the way it was laid out and the way you went up and down. But no matter how good this looked, I have a bit of a soft spot for some Carl Hornell stuff. He's done some interesting stuff like Fungus and things like that. But the controls on this, they just completely ruined it for me. I couldn't control it. I just could not control this damn thing. So it rendered the game, it got 83% somehow, but it even said in the review, it takes a while to get used to the controls. Now, I'd say that's an understatement. I gave this quite a bit of time, so I was thinking maybe I can get used to it, maybe, and then no, we can't. It's just the same thing over and over. Bounce, dead, bounce, dead, bounce, dead, down. Toadforce was not for me. How about you?
I like the graphic style of these games. I bought Toadforce way back in the day, believe it or not, on cassette.
Did you? I never knew that.
Yeah, I know, and that's how I know that it's got a game as it loads. I think it's Micro Painter when you load it up.
Oh,
so
right, okay.
It was either Invader Load or Micro Painter, but I think it was Micro Painter on this one. Anyway, I don't like games I can't control, and this was one of them. So I don't quite remember. I remember thinking the same thing way back when. Thinking it looks nice. That when it starts, it's got a nice polish to the graphics and the look and feel. The sort of way the sprites bobble about in the middle. You got these sort of, it's quite nice. But like you said, the main issue is obviously the controls, because you're not really controlling anything. You are just trying to apply some kind of reduction in speed and acceleration to something that is bouncing around like a crazy thing. So it doesn't make a great deal of sense. So you can't really do much because you're not really playing the game and trying to navigate the nuances. PU, by the way, is plutonium.
Plutonium, that's it.
So that's obviously got something to do with it. I don't know. It's also, you've got an oxygen meter because you have to collect oxygen canisters, but you're never going to do any of that because you're just pinging around all over the place. So what can you say about it other than there's no game to experience because you can't play it, because even if you try and nudge the controls slowly and try and navigate your way around, it doesn't work because you end up dead, being shot, bombed, you'll hit something and you'll bounce off and you're out of control within seconds. So are there things you could like? I suppose you could like the way the graphics have been drawn. And the actual loading game itself was quite fun on the tape, but I genuinely don't know why I bought it back in the day, and it's just on replay now, uncontrollable, and what fun is there in that? So no, $1.99. It got 83%.
I know.
They must be able to control things in ways that we can't, because I don't get how they did that. But
maybe they're like Nesta or something. It took all 5 of them. They all just lined up and went, oh. And controlled it that way, and
they must have
mind
better
power.
Joysticks, or I don't know. I don't know. It all leads me to think that sometimes in some of these, have they really played the games? Because the just scoring seems to be really arbitrary compared to now. If they had have played this, there's no way they could have given it 83% because you can't play it. But no. I don't know. There's no point in us criticizing it now, all these years later. But it just feels to me like they haven't. So
no, I think so.
Don't like it. Don't like games I can't play. Generally.
No, true. Well, there you go. That's the first lot of games. That's a whole load of that's a whole load of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Maybe the second half will be better. Maybe it will. Who knows? Who knows what's coming up?
You never know.
Christ, this has been one of the most trying months of games.
Yeah, we haven't had one of these for a while, have we?
No, where every month, every sort of chunk is just, oh, God.
It's a slog.
What's going on in the C64 market? Terribleness. That's what's going on. Anyway, that's the end of the first part. We're going to slink off and bounce around and imagine that we're being ruled by the alien queen for a little bit. We're going to have a little break, and then we'll be back. We will be looking at film and TV in the UK from October 1987. So hopefully that'll be better, but please stick around.
Massive Sunday roast dinners and Yorkshire puddings to our wonderful show sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you will find a whole load of brilliant audiobooks, bargain books, ebooks, and more. David's latest amazing book, Escape from the Commodore 64, is available right now. In fact, let's go and have a sneaky listen. It would be rude not to.
Abruptly, she was a fly on the wall once more. The warlord knew she was here, the baleful, melodramatic music telling her as much. A guard ran in to meet him. He outstretched his arm and pointed. The guard bowed and left at once, no doubt to try to stop her. Sarah's breaths quickened as she returned to her running stance and made haste. She continued running, wishing she was this fluid in real life. Somehow, she could see the guard running towards her even before he came into her direct field of vision. This helped Sarah prepare, giving her ample notice to switch back to the fighting stance. Another fight ensued. This guy was superior to the last, but Sarah found a patient approach did the trick. This time, she kicked him to his virtual demise.
Now that is a spicy meatball. Escape from the Commodore 64 is available right now. Don't listen to me yakking. Head to davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
And we're back. We are back and we're into film and TV. October 1987. What was going on? Let's get straight in on this. Graham, on the 11th of October, there was a new children's strand, now on 2. Was launched on Sunday mornings on BBC 2, if you couldn't guess, and it broadcast during the Open University off-season. Consequently, Sunday CFAX transmissions all but end. Although on Saturdays, CFAX continue to air throughout the morning, generally until around midday. I love these. Just on. It'll finish at some point.
Yeah.
We don't know. Someone turn the CFAX off. It can't be turned off.
It's gone like Skynet.
It's become like Vija.
It's become self-aware and it's selling holidays to whoever it likes.
What would it be? Kafux.
It's the most boring version of the Terminator. Is it actually going to endanger anybody? This alert, aware, self-aware CFAX? Not really.
Not
it
really.
It just seems to be obsessed with cheap holidays
and weather
and jobs. It just seems
loads of jobs.
It's
making them up.
It's maliciously generating jobs. Well, okay. As long as it's not trying to control space satellites, we're all good.
Yeah. The other interesting thing I noticed in this was, though, it was broadcast during the Open University off season.
It's not they have seasons of Open University.
Just, I suppose, during term time, I guess, but it's just weird that the Open University. Do you remember the Open University stuff when it was on?
Yeah.
Did you ever used to catch any of that?
I remember the
That was it.
With that weird discordant trumpet went. The logo changed. Like, that shrill trumpet sent the shiver down his spine. That'd be a professor, whatever, talking about some weird formulae or something. And if we
there'd be always like hardcore maths.
Yeah, if you drop this pill inside of this beaker, then you'll notice there's a reaction. There it is. There's the reaction. It's just like, oh god, 3.2 times we measured this, and the length of the stone. And you're like, oh, what is this nonsense now?
Don't know, but you only have to endure that during the seasons.
The seasons. What do they do when they're off season?
Well, I really liked what happened at the end of season 3. I thought that's where it really peaked for me.
Yeah, they have season finales where they leave it on a cliffhanger. Will we know what's happened to Newton? Well, we'll find out next season.
Absolutely. And then we drop this one in the beaker, and we'll tell you at the start of season 4.
Do you know, it's funny. I remember way back. I remember being ill and off. I don't know if I was ill and off school, but I'd been ill and off school for a while. And so it just, when illnesses lasted longer than the school week and you enter your weekend, it was a very serious matter at that point.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting and just watching something about gearing on gearing and cars, like our cars and gears and transmissions and stuff like that. And just sat in this kind of sweaty, I think it might have had measles at the time or something, but sweaty, sort of horrible situation, and this program going, the thing with car gears is if you put the 6.2 to the 3. Thinking, why put something good on? And just a fond memory I have of that.
Sounds very fond.
I might have had salmonella, I think. I can't remember. I was quite ill with something, and that was but funnily enough, I remembered all about gearing, so that's how it clearly worked.
Yeah, absolutely. In your fevered state,
yes, exactly.
You've imbibed knowledge.
And that knowledge came back in a very useful way, never. So,
well, maybe it would have come back if you'd have gone on our next show. Because on the 12th of October, BBC One debuted Going for Gold.
Going for Gold. The heat is on.
This was the time is right.
The time for you to play the game. Yeah.
This is a general knowledge quiz presented by Henry Kelly, who we previously seen on Game for a Laugh. He was the jolly Irish one.
He was.
In which contestants from 14 different European countries compete to become the series champion. The winner of the first series, Daphne Hudson, who later became Daphne Fowler, just so for accuracy's sake, receives ringside tickets at the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul, and goes on to become a familiar face on television after appearing in a number of other quizzes, including 15 to 1 and Eggheads.
You can't just go around quizzing your way through the world. Get a job.
Well, Daphne Fowler, nay Hudson, did.
You bloody winner.
Well, yeah. Obviously, she's very clever. Obviously, she was off ill watching Open University a lot.
She must have been, exactly. Hence the reason she's an egghead. But 15-1 was always a misnomer for me. If it ain't a battle with batleths, with 15 people start Royal Rumble style and it just works the way down, there can be only one. It's like a Highlander game show, that, but no, it ain't. Just people in a circle and asking questions and that.
It is, yeah. You never saw the end of the show?
No,
Going for gold.
I mean, I saw every now and again you'd find yourself watching TV at the time it was on, and it would come on, and that's how come I know the music. The heat is on, the time is right. And I remember watching it and thinking, "Oh, this is quite good." Never ever seeing anyone win. It just went on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So each time I'd watch it, there'd be different contestants. They were from all over the world. Was it the world or Europe? But they were from
Europe. 14 different European countries.
Yeah. So they were from. But it'd be like the German contestant would win, and the next time you saw it, it wouldn't be him because I think the person who won it came back, didn't they? The next one.
I can't remember.
Like but even if it wasn't that, and there was heats, or it led to some finale. Does that exist? Is there evidence of a finale? Do we know that Daphne Hudson, or Daphne Fowler, as she became known, was a real thing? Who knows?
Maybe she was created by fax.
I just wondered if it was actually a test on us. They're just, how long can we get this game show to go on for without anyone realising that it's never ending? Nobody wins.
They didn't even tell Henry Kelly.
I mean, it's true.
He's still asking questions in a studio somewhere.
It is in the title. They're going for gold. They're never going to get it.
He thought he was signing up for a trip up the Yukon.
Yes.
15th of October, during a weather forecast, BBC meteorologist Michael Fish reports, earlier on today, apparently, a woman rang the BBC and said she had heard there was a hurricane on the way. Well, if you're watching, don't worry, there isn't. But having said that, actually the weather will become very windy. Most of the strong winds, incidentally, will be down over Spain and across into France. Hours later, Britain is hit by the worst storm for 284 years.
Ouch.
Fish later drew criticism for the comments, but has since claimed they referred to Florida, USA, and were linked to a news story immediately preceding the weather bulletin, but have been so widely repeated out of context that the British public remains convinced that he was referring to the approaching storm.
How interesting.
Do we believe him?
I'm not sure, especially if he says the words Spain and France. I'm not sure how that relates to Florida. But...
No, I don't either.
Which part of Florida is Spain in? That's the Spanish bit. Yeah,
and France. Where's in relation to France? Can you point to Florida on a map?
Yeah, and I'm exceedingly worried about your credentials. You are actually qualified at this, aren't you?
I'm a weatherman.
I remember
my mum said I could be a weatherman.
I mean that particular weather forecast has been repeated on so many of the it happened in the 80s shows kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I remember at the time thinking, don't get that wrong, but as we all know, when we woke up the next day and we found out, we all woke up in bloody the land of Oz around here. Not Australia either, the Yellow Brick Road version.
Real Oz.
Yeah, the real Oz with the Munchkins and the Lullaby League and all the crazy, it's where all the little people live.
And the witches and everything.
Yes, they were there too, yes.
They were. But I did like the shoes.
The shoes and the curtains, yeah, but just don't pay any attention to anyone behind them.
I often don't. If I see someone stood behind my curtains, I pay them no heed.
Do you know,
I'm wondering why someone is in my front room and behind my curtains.
I watched The Wizard of Oz again recently because there's been I think a brand new remastered version of it came out, I think on Blu-ray, and for some reason I felt compelled to watch it again, and there is some amazing stuff in that considering how old it is. It's quite amazing. It's also stupid, and she's clearly whacked off her gourd on speed. Which is quite interesting. She's pie-eyed throughout that whole thing. It's at one point, her eyes go so wide, it honestly looks like someone's drawn them on. We've just drawn massive white circles with a tiny dot in. Like, wow, okay. We don't need studio lights.
That's what happens when you remaster something that shouldn't be remastered.
Well, they polished her eyeballs a bit like they do in Toy Story 2 when they clean Woody's eyes.
Or like Homer does with his head on the on the bolo shine.
Yes.
Homer, you shine your forehead in the bolo shine.
No.
Okay.
But yes, it was a tragedy. Really, lots of crazy stuff happened. So.
There was fences fell over, trees uprooted,
yeah. Cars flipped over.
Did someone die?
Loads of people. Yeah, it's quite a lot of. It's one of the most serious UK storm incidents. Yeah, now we get them every other day, so we're kind of used to it. I
do like the way in that write up though that it's written that Fish later drew criticism because I can't help think it was the lead singer from Marillion that gave
Well, he shouldn't have been giving people weather forecasts in the first place, should he? He's out of his Knowledge base.
Absolutely. All he did, he said it was a good day for a Kaylee. Hey!
Do you remember? That's how he starts his weather forecasts. No, don't. Get off. Get
Do you
out.
remember Dilly Dilly?
Get your hair cut.
You bloody tramp.
You bloody scruffy, stinking tramp.
16th of October. As a result of the Great Storm of 1987, it was quickly named that. I love that. A day later, it was called the Great Storm of 1987. Electrical power to TV AM's studio is lost.
Oh, no.
And an emergency program has to be transmitted from facilities at Thames Television's Euston Road Centre using reports from TVAM's own crews and those of ITN, to TV Southwest and TVS, TV South. The BBC's breakfast time, which would usually come from Lime Grove, and was unable to broadcast as the studios were without power, as was most of BBC Television Centre at Wood Lane. The early part of the programme was broadcast from the Continuity Suite at a TV centre, usually used for children's BBC presentation, as this area had generator support before a larger studio was able to be brought into use.
So desperate were they to get that program out that they just, has anywhere got power? For God's sake, we've got to get this program out.
The thought is, though, why would a children's BBC centre have its own, generator?
Its own power supply. More importantly, why would nobody would? I mean, I suppose they might be thinking that people want to see the updates for the news because of the storm. Most people's areas have been blown to bloody Spain by now, so nobody could tune in anyway. Like, what?
I think you mean Spain, Florida.
Yes, that's exactly Spain, Florida. But that's what I mean. You woke up, your car's in next door's garden upside down, your trees have all been turned upside down, and you're lucky if the roof of your house hasn't been blown off. And they're going, "We've got to get people watching TV. It's important." Like, that's the last thing I'm thinking of right now. You idiots.
Yeah, true. Because at that time, it was transmitted over the antennas, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so
it was the old-fashioned
we needed an antenna.
transmissions. Yeah.
So nobody was watching it. I don't know why they were bothered. Could you put anything on?
Yes.
Oh, well.
I remember it being windy.
It was quite windy.
It's quite windy.
What went on? New shows, though.
New
4th
shows.
Of October. On 4th of October, we had Wurzel Gummidge Down Under. It was a New Zealand-British television series adapted from the books written by Barbara Euphan Todd and the British fantasy series television programme produced and broadcast in the UK named Wurzel Gummidge, starred John Pertwee. The story continued in New Zealand when Aunt Sally was sold to a museum owner. Do you remember this?
No, I
There
don't.
were 2 seasons of it.
I don't remember it at all. Did it have John Pertwee in this one as well then?
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
I don't remember it. I don't like Wurzel Gummidge. I don't like it because I don't like the Crowman. I don't like him, and I don't like the fact that they had an army of bloody evil people. They're evil. What do you call them? What are they called?
What called?
What
Scarecrows.
Scarecrows. He had the Crowman had an army of scarecrows, and they periodically would circle round Wurzel Gummidge and pull his head off. And he had multiple heads. It was freaky parts to that whole thing. I don't like it. But
No, I didn't like it either.
some people like it. So I didn't remember that show at all. Completely missed me.
No, I mean, if we've got any of our New Zealand listeners or people from the other side of the world, if you could let us know.
I mean, Wurzel Gummidge was popular in the UK in the early 80s, so 1980, 81, wasn't it? Way before any of that.
So, yeah.
Certainly wasn't.
Yeah.
I remember watching it when I lived in a different house when I was younger, and we didn't move to 1983, so it was all before that. So it was suddenly they must have just discovered him and thought, oh, I know what'll be funny. Let's put Wurzel Gummidge in Australia or New Zealand.
Well, there was 22 episodes made.
Well, it'd be the same stuff, wouldn't it? I can't even remember much about what happened in that, apart from he was dead scared of fire, obviously. That's all I remember.
His Achilles heel.
Yeah. His Achilles' entire body is made of straw.
Oh, change your head now, Scarecrow.
Yeah, put your flameproof head on.
Yeah, he had clever head and everything. I never liked Wurzel Gummidge. I always found it a bit freaky.
Yeah, exactly. It is freaky. And if you look back on the new ones on YouTube, it's very freaky to this day.
Yeah, I don't like the fact he could just change his head.
No, and the way he did it as well, just pulled his head off.
Yeah, it's unpleasant.
No.
5th of October, we had Star Wars Ewoks.
We did.
Ewoks, also known as Star Wars, it's an animated television series featuring the Ewok characters introduced in Return of the Jedi. And they were further discovered in Caravan of Courage, an Ewok adventure, and its sequel, Ewoks, The Battle for Endor. There you go. Yeah, it was. This was based. It was part of. Which had a sister series, Droids.
Yeah.
It was part of the Ewoks and Droids Adventure Hour.
Yeah.
And then by itself as the all new Ewoks.
Yeah.
With the new originals.
I know it's gone. It's the Ewok version of Spinal Tap.
And actually, then we came back as the Thames Men. It's the Thames Ewoks. Interestingly, though, or maybe not, the penultimate episode, Battle for the Sunstar, which would re-aired as the series finale, actually I don't understand, shows the Ewok heroes leaving the forest moon's surface when they go on board an Imperial Star Destroyer that has travelled to their system. An Imperial scientist attempts to destroy the Emperor, whose shuttle makes an appearance. The episode has been noted as forming a link with Return of the Jedi, which features the Empire using Endor as its base of operations for the second Death Star, so it became canon and linked this cartoon to Return of the Jedi.
Of course it did.
There you go.
That's how they did it. Yeah.
I don't know if it's been rendered, non-canon these days by Disney. Who just
No,
went,
it will have done.
nothing is canon.
Nothing is canon. I don't like the Ewoks.
No one does. No one does.
Don't like them. I mean, when the special effects rehash version came out, you could see the little zips at the back of the costumes, couldn't you? I liked it when then a couple of Ewoks got blasted in that explosion in Jedi by that scout walker, and then he rolls his mate over, doesn't he? He's like, I did it. Oh, like, yes. Yeah, I remember shouting that in the cinema at the time.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget, the Ewoks were they were going to eat people.
Yeah,
with their little faggy teeth.
Exactly.
They made a right mess.
And I don't buy this. They climbed on board an Imperial Star Destroyer because they wouldn't have any concept of what that was. These guys were basically living in the trees, eating beetles, and bloody making fire was new to them. So climbing on board the complex technical masterpiece of the Imperial Star Destroyer would be overwhelming for them. They prayed to a golden robot because they thought it was a god.
That is true.
There's no way that's nowhere that happened.
I apologise for Graham going all sci-fi nerd, Star Wars nerd. I don't accept it. It's not not my Star Wars.
I don't like Ewoks. I don't like the idea that they're principally technologically savvy, but mask that by hiding in the trees and trying to cook people.
Well, one could fly a speeder bike.
No, he didn't. He pressed the wrong button, if you remember, and it just took off. There was no control. Their weapons were sticks and rocks against harsh laser power.
Well, maybe that goes from the classic Einstein quote about, that had World War III and destroyed themselves. So maybe they were technologically very advanced.
Possibly.
World
And
War
of course,
IV we fought with sticks
maybe
and stones.
the caravan of courage was actually a caravan full of technological advancements.
Maybe it was,
But I don't care because I just wanted to see him getting mushed.
I just wanted to see him blown up and destroyed. Yeah, I never liked him. No. I mean, they made drums out of stormtroopers' heads.
Exactly. They're savages.
Evil things.
Micro savages.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a 1980s computer program. Welcome to this episode of Micro Savages, where we will be printing out quite a long program on this dot matrix printer.
And I tell you what is funny with that. Sorry, and I said there's a final thought. What is a bit odd is that the original version of Jedi at the end, when they're all singing their da 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 da, they have a little chanty song, don't they?
Yeah, the proper tune before they changed it.
Change it to the Panpipes Moods version later on, where they just suddenly become experts at panpipes, which perhaps does fit in with them. They just become all Incan.
No,
anyway,
I hate that. I hate that. What they did.
I don't like any of those
versions.
Yeah, don't. Where they put Hayden Christensen in, didn't they? And no.
Awful.
No.
9th of October, Sport on Friday started. This ran for 10 years.
Goodness
the
me.
BBC television sports programme. There you go. And it was a companion show to both Sports Night and Grandstand.
Right.
It would usually show some live snooker or racing or something like that. And it was basically just stuff that was going on. It'd be on from about 2:30 till sort of 4 o'clock-ish. And it was originally presented by David Icke.
Of course it was, before he went.
Until he was replaced by Helen Rollison in 1990, which I think is around about the time he got on his lizard bandwagon, wasn't it?
Well, he became very interested in the Illuminati.
Yeah, very.
So, it's an understatement, really, But I've actually been to a David Icke talk, believe it or not, because I was very curious. It was when I was at first year university. He came to Derby, and he delivered a talk in the Warehouse, which was a nightclub.
Right.
And he came and did a talk to there was about 100 people there very early on. So we're going back to 1990, whatever that, 94, 85, 94, 5. And so, I've seen him deliver his speech. And even he wasn't so much talking about lizards at that point. It was just about one world currencies, and it was all very conspiracy theory stuff. Quite fascinating in its own crazy way, I suppose. Yeah, but even then, it got the reputation because it appeared, I think, on a couple of TV shows, hadn't it?
It was the famous Wogan one.
Yeah,
wasn't
and the
it?
Wogan interview where Wogan was subtly taking the mickey out of him all the way through, and he just didn't see it, either didn't see it or didn't want to be part of that. But either way,
Yeah.
now of course the internet's his oyster now, isn't it? So
Yes, yeah, he's not even close to the the edge of what people do on the internet, I guess.
no, not anymore.
I know. 12th of October, Runway, a British game show. There you go.
Don't remember much about that at all.
I do remember it. It had a series of its board was laid out like a runway, like an airplane runway. This is most famous because it was presented by Richard Madeley. There you go.
Yeah, okay. I remember Chris Searle, of course. I remember him from Thingy.
Who's Chris Searle?
He was the guy that was in.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yes.
Take That. He wasn't in Take That. It was,
Okay, very different. Very different.
was it called? That's Life. I think he did. He was
Yes.
one of them in that.
Yeah,
stuff,
he did.
wasn't
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, so
but Chris Searle's really nothing to do with Take That.
He's not. 18th of October, we had the Charmer. Do you remember this?
No, but I remember as soon as I read the name Nigel Havers, I was like, oh, of course,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's going to have. He was in all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's based on a book. It's a 1950s. He's a charmer he's a charmer con man who charms women out of their money, and it's that sort of thing. I don't know whether it was liked or not. More importantly, though, 29th of October, Around the World with Willy Fogg.
It begins, yeah.
Yeah. It's quite old, though, because it started in 1983, which in Spain, I think it was.
Yeah.
It took a few years to get here, sort of thing. But there you go, Willy Fogg. I mean, everyone remembers this for the title tune, don't they?
We do. Yes, they very much do, yeah.
80 Days Around the World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fogg, I'm the one who made the bet. Done all that, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have time for Willy Fogg at the time?
I liked all of these cartoons. This was one of the ones I wouldn't say I liked it as much. I preferred Dogtanian and Cities of Gold and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
But I did like Around the World with Willy Fogg. I like the title music. Everyone likes the title music for that. It was harmless enough fun. It was a bit weird in places because there was it was very much of what it was, and the characters were there's very clear delineations between good and evil and all that. But it was one of the first times where the BBC, I think who was showing this, bought the entire series. So they bought all 26 episodes, I think there was, and showed them all, which generally speaking hadn't happened a lot because more often than not, they only ever bought some of the episodes when they were syndicated. So you'd never actually see the entire series. Ulysses 31 is a good example of that. But it was all right. The entire series is on YouTube, so you can watch them all if you want.
You could do. I'm sure that'll be in the show notes if our listeners wish to go have a look.
Yeah, the entire... and do watch the last episode because it's, people often forget what happens in the very last episode. I'm not going to spoil it for you because there's 26 things to get to before you get there. But it is it's Around the World in 80 days. So if you know what happens in that, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Finally, 30th of October, Dispatches started, and it's still going, that programme.
Yeah, very, very in-depth stuff, isn't
Current
it?
Affairs documentary programme on Channel 4 covers issues about British society, politics, health, religion, current affairs, environment, and would often feature a mole inside organisation under journalistic investigation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they often did in-depth stuff and exposés and that kind of thing. Still do.
Yeah, didn't Dispatches do the... was it the Mike Ashley factory?
Yeah, there's some really
Dispatches?
famous Dispatches exposés, aren't there? If you look at I didn't dig in too far into it, but if you look into the wiki entry for that, there's some very famous Dispatches out there where they really expose some stuff.
There is, and it's still going. Let's move on to film. Big lot of films this month. Big lot of films. 5th of October, Fatal Attraction.
Yes. Good old Fatal Attraction. Yeah.
What do we say about Fatal Attraction? I can tell you, did you go to the cinema to see this? Because
No,
I did.
I didn't. No, I didn't.
I remember my brother.
Sympathy.
Well, I remember my brother took me to see this. I felt it was an awkward viewing.
It would be, yeah. Bit saucy.
Yeah, watching Glenn Close and Michael Douglas getting a bit saucy on the sink.
Yeah, do a bit on that.
Yeah, so it's a bit weird. And I thought it was okay. It was a bit kind of strange. I was like, oh, this is kind of okay, I think. But I don't think I was 15, so I think I was a bit not quite mature enough to understand the full ramifications of this film. So it's based on the 1980 short film Diversion. It was because it was written by James Durden, Michael Douglas, Glenn Close, and Anne Archer. And everyone knows what it is. Michael Douglas, Glenn Close have a brief affair while Anne Archer is away. Glenn Close cannot handle it and
starts to go crazy on him.
Yeah, and then becomes obsessed with him, and things go from bad to worse from there, and all ends up. And as you've rightly noted, gave the phrase "bunny boiler" to the world because it had the scene where she kills the bunny and leaves it in a pot.
She does
on their stove. It's quite well cut together, that scene with the little girl.
It's a good film.
It is a good film. Yeah, I can appreciate it now.
Yeah.
But it was a massive hit, huge. I think that's why we went to see it, because it was just everybody was talking about this.
Yeah.
It was huge. 320 million it grossed off a 14 million budget.
That's good. That's good turnaround. That.
Yeah, and it got nominated for 6 awards. It is a good film, but it's one of those things that kind of happened and sort of sparked a debate. Maybe, I don't know. It was one of those things.
Yeah, it started to sort of, there was, because a few films came out similar, didn't they? Where there was an obsessed woman. Rebecca De Mornay, isn't there, as well, where she's obsessed with somebody.
Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Yeah, that sort of vibe, I think.
And it also was kind of part of that early sort of steamy Hollywood, should we say,
yes.
which would lead to things like Basic Instinct, Sliver, Showgirls, I guess.
Yeah. Oh God, Showgirls, so shit. Yeah, it did. Unfortunately.
But that sort, the Joe Hester house would line his pockets with steamy money.
Yeah, and Adrian Lyne did a few of them, didn't he? He did a couple of those, and they did make a bit of money.
I think so, yeah. But so I don't know whether this was the start. There's probably others before this, because I think there was, what was that other one? 9.5 Weeks.
9.5 Weeks is the one I was trying to think of. Yeah, with
it was all this kind of like how far can we push sex on screen?
Yes,
lots of questions. And what was that crappy Bruce Willis one?
Oh, that came out way later than them, but it's the same sort of thing. Wasn't it? Colour of Night.
Colour of Night. That was it. Yeah, that's what I mean. There was a whole slew of these.
So bad, that film.
And there was the crappy Body of Evidence. That was another one.
Starts to look into this genre. They're all kind of crap.
They were just basically just thrillers. Jade was another one, I think.
Yeah, Jade. Yeah, that came out in the sort of late 90s, didn't it? Jade. It's just they were early T&A movies, weren't they? And
yes,
and there was because they were a bit racier than usual, and they were a bit more graphic. People started to oh my God, let's go see that.
Yeah, and then there was loads of cheap versions that hit video.
Oh God, the straight to video versions of some of these.
All usually starring...
Fatally Attractive would be one of them, wouldn't it?
Well, usually starring someone from Twin Peaks. The straight-to-video one.
Sherilyn Fenn was in a lot of them.
Sherilyn Fenn,
yeah. Oh, God, there's loads of those. Loads of them.
Yeah.
In fact, we had a friend, who shall remain nameless, we had a friend who was obsessed with those. He had loads of them. Just loads.
Did.
Absolutely loads of them.
I can't put my finger on why.
No, I can't. I just remember him... bringing a couple of them round one time, and I can't remember. It was Matilda May was in one of them, and she was in that woman out of that sci-fi movie with the space vampires, and there was only one reason.
Life Force.
Yeah, it was Matilda May out of Life Force, and it was her with her boobs out, and it's like this is the only reason you even know that film exists. And he's like, yeah, that's true. He was right. You're right. So
he was very honest.
He was honest about it. In all fairness,
he was seedy but honest.
Seedy but honest, but he was always made going into his bedroom and sitting in his bedroom chatting to him awkward. No.
With all the stiff socks.
Oh, the stiff socks and the dust. Oh, the bed dust. It's like, no, I don't know what that is, but it's not dust. That's crust. I don't breathe it in. Don't breathe that in. For Christ's sake.
Breathe through your nose.
You need a mask or something. You're going to end up with sort of throat nodules and not good ones. That's how he breathes.
Through his throat nodules.
No, through yours. Impregnates you with his bed dust.
All that time I always wondered what I always come out
of that house with a dirty cough. I don't know why.
Dirty cough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cough, yes. Be careful. Be careful there.
Very careful. 16th of October, Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
I'll just put my comment. I've only ever watched this once. I didn't like it, and I'm never going to watch it again.
Yeah, something tells me it's not up your street.
It's really not. It's really not. But, I can dig Footloose and stuff like that, but this, no.
It was all right, Dirty Dancing. It's all right. It's odd because of the silly things in it. Like, obviously, it's Ferris Bueller's sister in it, isn't it? She plays
it is,
Baby in that, and lots of rotational hips, lots of Rasta split dancing in that. It's also the other woman. The other woman he dances with is the female cop from the film Runaway, but with all of her body fat sucked out through some kind of device, so she's as perilously thin as can be. So under
Is
the
she?
rotation,
Oh.
snap her like a twig. But I suppose it's a classic. Put Patrick Swayze in the map, maybe, or was it Ghost or Roadhouse that did that? I don't know. One of them did.
I think it was a triple treat.
Yeah, I watched a documentary about him, and he was a really genuinely kind and funny guy. Apart from if you tried to mess about in his bar or his club, where then he would smash your head in without a moment's hesitation. But other than that, lovely, a really lovely guy. And of course, he's in that famous Danny Darko, isn't he? He's really good in that as well.
Where he's not particularly lovely.
No, he's not a nice guy in that, but he's just completely, he's just good. He's good in it, and it's not a role you would ever have expected him to play. I quite admired him for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you missed one out there, which probably as well was one of his biggest as well, which is Point Break.
Yeah, I've completely forgot Point Break. Yeah, that's another one that put him on the sort of man map, didn't it, as opposed to the girl map?
The man map.
Oh yeah, because all the girls were into him because of Ghost and Dirty Dancing, and probably Roadhouse, had its fair share of froth, and then that Point Break came out, and it's all dudes and surfers and bank robbers, and and all that, and so
and
put him on the. He got a few more cool points, I think, for that. Yeah,
he did. Yeah, teamed up with Mr. Keanu, didn't he?
Yes, of course. Yeah, he's got Keanu Reeves in that as well, and Gary Busey. Or is it Gary Busey? Is it Gary Busey?
I think it's Gary Busey. Yeah,
I think he's in that, yeah, because he's in Big Wednesday, isn't he? I think originally.
Gary Busey.
Yeah,
Predator 2.
Yeah. The lions, the tigers, the bears. Oh my,
Yeah,
freaky guy.
He's great.
Big teeth.
I watched that recently. That's a strange film.
It's a really
weird
film.
Hopefully, we will get to Predator 2
at
in
some
covering
point we will.
this.
Yeah, it is a weird old thing.
That's very strange.
Want some candy?
Yeah, it's very odd.
Stupid.
Also on 16th of October, if you didn't fancy a bit of Dirty Dancing, you could go and watch Beverly Hills Cop 2. So another Tony Scott film, and this is the Eddie Murphy sequel. Eddie Murphy was still riding high on the wake of everything and nothing he could do.
Yeah, he was the man of the moment there, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah, this made $276.5 million. Not quite as much as the first film, but still a hefty chunk of change.
Yeah, just a bit.
It was also nominated for a Best Original Song. This Bob Seger's Shakedown.
Okay.
Did you ever listen to it?
Yes, the one with all the stabby trumpets. Yeah.
It's got stabby trumpets and stabby keyboards.
Yeah, some orchestral hits in there as well.
Yeah,
lots of that. Yeah, it's totally of its time. Goodness,
it massively is. It's like I reckon Kenny Loggins passed on that. He went no.
Kenny Loggins.
It's too much
he
no.
Me. It's like the Loggins man. He says no. The juice man from Del Monte.
the man from the Kenny Loggins. He say no.
He say no.
Give it to Bob Seger. He's like Sega. He's like the Mexican off-brand version.
Bob Seger.
Now that would be funny if he every time he did a concert he did that.
That joke's haunted him for years. He probably thinks no. Stop saying it now. Come on.
To be this good, take Sega. It's the name of his first album.
Do you know, I never got on board with the old Beverly Hills movies, generally. Beverly Hills Cop movies. No, I don't know why.
I like the first two.
I like the third one. I think they've all got funny scenes in them.
The third one's the one that people hate and don't rate, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's stupid. But parts of the stupidity of it with the big giant fart in the swamp thing. Or am I thinking of another different film? I don't know anyway.
I don't remember that bit in Beverly Hills Cop 3.
I'm wondering if I'm getting... Because it's Beverly Hills Cop 3 and they sort of head towards the same kind of vibe that you get with... that Schwarzenegger movie where he plays the cop and it's in Los Angeles and Last Action Hero. There's sort of weird crossovers between them in some ways.
Well, the thing with Beverly Hills Cop 3 is that Landis didn't want to make it. I think there was a big falling out with quite a few people. Landis didn't want to make it. I don't think he got dragged in. There was I think the script was a mess and everything like that, but Beverly Hills Cop 2 though was just more Beverly Hills Cop. Like, how can we get him back? How can we get the team back on board? I also think Beverly Hills Cop 3 doesn't have Taggart, John Ashton.
Possibly.
I think it might only have Judge Reinhold, I think. I think one of them is missing, and it was essentially, let's just try and get the gang back, but they're not. It's a poor man. It's
liking the first
3.
one, scenes in the first one, the banana up the tailpipe and all that. And Eddie Murphy's funnier in the first one. But.
Yeah, the first one's great. Like and it was also the first one is a comment on the black guy in Hollywood, like when he goes into the hotel and everything and gets all that. The second one is kind of more of the same, but the third one was a push too far. You could take, all right, we'll have more of that, but you could see that people, it didn't earn as much, so people were a bit fed up with it. But yeah, I think Beverly Hills Cop 2 is good. It's not as good as the first one.
It's a Tony Scott movie. He never does that bad of movies, generally.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Domino.
I quite like that, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. A mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. But yeah, Mr. Murphy could do no wrong, as you've rightly started, and it started to go wrong. And then they stopped coming for the sea greens, and the proteins, and the plankton.
Yeah, some of his films aren't very good now. Goodness.
No, not much. He's not.
Although I forgive him because he voiced Donkey, so
he is the voice of Donkey. Yes,
yep, and
but he also did Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah, voice of Donkey. That sounds. I remember him for that. And his stand-up routines are brilliant. Eddie's stand-up routines, Delirium, and a couple of those others that he did. They really are good. Brilliant stand-up comedy back then.
23rd of October, The Witches of Eastwick.
Mm.
Do you like The Witches of Eastwick?
I do, actually. Yeah, I do. I'm a big fan of Jack Nicholson in that. I think that's one of my favourite performances of his in a film. I really like him in that.
It was originally going to be given to Bill Murray, that role.
Yeah, can you imagine? It might have worked in kind of way.
I think he would have worked.
It would, yeah, in the way that he does that dark, sardonic character that he probably played in Scrooged. If he did it kind of like that, maybe to go away with it.
Yeah.
So I can see that.
Also, interestingly, I got this from Wikipedia. Angelica Houston auditioned for it, but she gave a terrible role. And then Cher steps in and auditioned for it. And for that role of who was she going to play? She played Jane. Yeah. But then Cher insisted on playing the part of Alexandra, which had already been given to Susan Sarandon. Producers gave in to Cher's demands and cast her in the role instead, and they never never actually told Susan Sarandon proper notice of this, and she didn't find out that her role had been given to Cher, and she'd been recast as Jane until the day she turned up on location to start filming.
Imagine that.
That's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, and she looks a bit startled throughout the film, so that explains a lot.
Probably why. Also, as well, the film omits a key episode from the book, because this was a book. Who wrote it? John Updike novel, where it's a key episode where Daryl unexpectedly marries a young, innocent girl. That's the devil. That's Jack Nicholson. Marries a young, innocent girl named Jenny, and the jealous three witches magically cause her to die of cancer.
Yeah, probably best that they skip that bit out of the movie.
Yeah, God, when I read that, I was like, who would think of writing that into a book? You'd lose all sympathy for these characters immediately.
Yeah, well, in all fairness, that it's an odd film in that respect, because your sympathies sort of lie with them, but not. They do kind of lie with the what's sort of the wimpier of the three. It's Michelle Pfeiffer's character. No, I think Michelle Pfeiffer's character is a little bit, isn't she? They all become sort of super witches, don't they?
Yeah.
But I think she's one of the weaker characters later in it. But I find interplay fascinating, and I really like Jack Nicholson as the role he plays, especially the sequence in the church where he's throwing up. Brilliant.
Yeah, that is a good scene. I think for me, I don't mind this film. It's all right. It's directed by George Miller, isn't it, as well? Yep. So
yeah, good.
So
good track record.
It's got a good track, a good pedigree, everything like that. But there's something about it that never sort of gelled me. And I think it should do, but I don't know. There's something about it, and I think, whereas you kind of like it, I think it's too. I don't know. It's too Jack Nicholson. It's like I was never a massive fan of him in Batman.
No,
I think it's just that it's Jack Nicholson being crazy Jack.
Yeah, and that's something I came to like a lot later. I didn't like this at the time when it came out. Certainly wasn't in my kind of thing to watch. Yeah, I was very sci-fi nerd at this point anyway, so it was never going to be something that would appeal to me. Although I did like the soundtrack. I came back to this film a lot later on, and then quite enjoyed, because I was going through a bit of a Jack Nicholson renaissance, because I was watching loads of his films, and obviously this was part of that, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I thought, plus, as I've noted, great soundtrack to the film as well.
Is this is this the music that we filmed our friend to and just left it on his face for ages?
Yeah, Danny Elfman, yeah.
I always remember that.
I think it's Danny Elfman.
Just to feel we had a video camera. We just sat in Graham's room, and we're just filming our friend's face while we had that music playing in the background for ages.
It was going to be a game show, but I can't remember what the game show was called. We were doing a pretend game show for some reason, and I can't remember what it was called, but the intro of the game show was meant to be his face, then the music played, and then we're going to put credits on it, but it just ended up was being his face for the first sort of minute and a half of that. It was really odd, wasn't it? And it is funny to watch.
with just the Witch of Eastwick music playing, as he just has this really fixed expression.
He does, yeah.
That's why I remember that.
And as a final note from me on this, this also gave birth to one of my favourite hard house tracks of all time, which is Mistakes by Bulletproof, which I put a link to for those people that like their hard house trance techno. It's a classic tidy track, and I'll put it in the show notes for those people that like that kind of thump, digga, because it's got a great big section of samples of Jack Nicholson from that film in it. It's really good.
There you go. Can't say fairer than that.
Yep.
That's it. That's your film and TV. There's a lot going on now. storms, there was the off-season Open University stuff, Going for Gold started, Dispatches, Fish, Hurricanes, Wurzel Gummidge Down Under, Ewoks, Sport, Nigel Havers, Willie Fogg, and then Uncomfortable Cinema Trips with Fatal Attraction,
Would be.
Dirty Dancing, Beverly Hills Cop 2, and finally, which is a V-Swick. Lots going on, film and TV in October 1987. So that's that bit. We're going to go away for a quick break, and we'll be back shortly, where we've got 6 more games to get through, and hopefully there might be a good one in there. Hopefully. Let's see.
Sun, Sea and Chippy Tea to our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com. Let's take another listen to his amazing new book, Escape from the Commodore 64.
Nell almost swooned when she flipped the lid to find chilled cans of Pepsi and yet another key. Not that Sarah had any time to think about it yet, but she really was thirsty. Okay, so maybe a cold drink was worth being flustered about. Nell frowned. I was hoping for a useful armament. He grinned. I don't make the rules here. Would you girls like a warm pretzel each? I suggest you get in fast. From next month, I'm only allowed to sell Chippy Tea. Oh no, we couldn't possibly... Nell waved her hand. Actually, Sarah tilted her head to the side. I really could. The cart owner was already packaging them up some lunch, yeasty, warm, and wrapped in brown paper. For free. Surely we have to pay for them, Sarah said, patting herself down, looking for the last of her credits. I'm sure there are some credits around here somewhere. Save your dosh. I'm sure you'll need it.
As the Mayor of Targ, I declare this book awesome. Escape from the Commodore 64 audiobook is out right now. Visit DavidHearnWriter.com today. What are you waiting for?
And we are back. That was Film and TV. We've had our first lot of games. Now we've got 6 more to get through. And Graham, did you enjoy this budget trip down memory lane as we look at some arcade classics?
Good old arcade classics. This is 199. Firebird, I think. Firebird. It was a silver medal.
Yes.
In Zap at 90%. Coded by Dave Korn, who later did BMX Kids and Thrust 2. Graphics were by David Korn, who later did BMX Kids and Thrust 2. And the title screen was Paul Doherty. Doc, classic, really good graphics. The guy can really pixel paint. And the musician here, of course, is Mr. Robert Hubbard, or Rob Hubbard to you and me. So this was retro, wasn't it? Before it was retro.
It was,
yes. Technically, this is retro. So what would that make it now? Retro? I don't know what that would be.
Ultimate retro.
Super retro, mega retro. So Arcade Classics is a C64 reimagining of 4 classic arcade games. Those 4 arcade games would be Space Invaders, which was first released by Taito of Japan, and under license through Midway in 1977 in the rest of the world. So interesting. There's Asteroids, released in 1979 by Atari. Snakes, a bit more of a mystery of the origins on that one, but I'll come back to that because that's a bit more difficult one to pin down. And Space Wars, which was released in the arcades by Cinematronics in 1977, but that is in fact itself based upon the PDP-1 program Space War. So are these arcade classics? I suppose maybe they are, but it doesn't matter.
2 of them, I would say.
2 of them at least are, yeah. So a couple of them, anyway. It's 50p a game in it, but
yeah.
No, it's not bad. And they're actually pretty good renditions of the games that they're aiming to be. They keep as reasonably faithful as possible to the arcade originals from which they're based. I don't think there's much need to explain what the games are, really. So, I don't think there's anybody this side of Mars that hasn't heard of those particular games, but they're the precursors and the kind of the originating genre masterpieces, really, of certain things like shooters and 2-play shooters and that kind of stuff. So, out of the 4 games that are there, obviously Space Invaders and Asteroids 1 player, and they're reasonably faithful renditions of those. Space Invaders adheres to Space Invaders. You get the nice Space Invaders type sound. It plays like Space Invaders, and you even get the kind of the speed up of the sort of Space Invaders. Something that is often missed off in Space Invader clones is the way that they speed up and the sound speeds up with them, and as they slowly lower towards the bottom of the screen. And it also inherits the proper arcade toughness of Space Invaders, which is often again missed. Although I think the original Space Invaders didn't have a joystick. I don't think it was buttons.
It was buttons, yes.
Yeah. Asteroids here isn't. Asteroids, the actual arcade was a vector-based arcade, one of a few vector-based arcades around at the time. Obviously, the C64, mercifully, they didn't go and try and make this out of vectors because it would have been a nightmare. So it's just sprites that look like vectors, but it works, and it's essentially asteroids. And I thought it was. I never really liked asteroids as an arcade, but it's still a pretty good version of that, even though I don't really like it. And then you come. So both those are one-player games. The two-player games there being Snakes and Space Wars. You start when the game starts. You get to a picture of an arcade, and you move your kind of selector to choose which arcade you can go for, and you press the button, and then you're playing that arcade. It's a single load, which is cool because there's lots of multi-loading or anything. Take note, games that do that stupidly. Although I did notice on that screen there's a spelling mistake. I don't know if you saw that, but they spelled asteroids wrong on the asteroids when it says asteroids instead of asteroids. But, classic, probably something that's the classic error. But that aside, you get to play these sort of games. There's nothing that you can really say that makes these games mega special. They just are what they are, and they do look like they're supposed to look. The Snake game is quite an interesting one because you posted a link in our little notes that we share to the sort of the genesis and birth of the Snakes games. Obviously, it's the game of Snakes here. It's a two-player game where there's two composed snakes, a bit like Tron Light Cycles in a way, but you can increase the length of your snake by eating the power pills, and you can sort of trap your opponent or chop bits of their snake off. And sounds very painful and very painful. Anyway. But it is actually a pretty good version of that, and it's quite simple. And as a two-player game, they're quite good fun in the way that it plays, and it is quite a good, colourful version. It reminded me of the sort of thing Minter would have done in the way that plays, but it's pretty good. And then the PDP one, well, it's just two spaceships sort of gravitationally challenging and stuff, and I never really liked that either, but it's here. I think you'd play this in. If you got this, you'd probably end up playing Space Invaders and Asteroids more than you would the others. Maybe Snakes now and again. But I think you'd probably do the first two because they're pretty good. So that's all well and good. And as you say, the thematics of the games are adhered to where possible. The music here is something interesting. So it's something a bit extra. It's a really loud and raucous and thumping guitar metal sample heavy track from Rob Hubbard for this, which really pounds its way into your ears. And I think it lifts the game. I think it's unnecessary, really, in this game to some extent, but it is a really good piece of music and it's interesting. I don't personally like that kind of guitar sample. Because I find that they sort of work in the context of a certain pitch, but as the sample is played along the different notes and as the pitch of that sample kind of increases and it sounds a bit, I don't know, sillier. I'm not a fan of how that kind of plays out, but this is an interesting tune and it's good considering it's in this little sort of budget game. And it's got classic Rob Hubbard background stuff in it. So if you took them samples out, it wouldn't bother me that much. But it's considered one of his great tunes. And it's something of a style he revisits later in another couple of games. I think Skate or Die has a tune similar to this. And
it does, yes.
Yeah, so we'll see others. So I quite like it. I personally don't like those kind of really loud, aggressive guitar samples that are in it because I think it just sounds a bit weird. But
Galway would go down that route as well when he was stuff like Combat School, I think.
Yes, yeah. And I don't know. I do like the versions of these. Some of these sort of, I suppose they're 4-channel out there. There's 3 SID channels and then there's a sample channel, which actually the way they've constructed that from it's basically an error it might be an error in the way the volume processing works or something inside the C64. Someone will correct me on it. But I think because the volume can be fluctuated fast. Basically, that's essentially how it makes a mini speaker, and it's how those samples are played. Like, it's really clever. There's loads you can read on it. Maybe I'll post something in the show notes if techies out there are bothered. But anyway, there's 4 channels, and one of them's a really aggressive sort of kind of sound. Really, a classic Kerrang sound, I suppose is the best way to describe it. And it is good, but it's just an extra part of a game that's quite interesting. For £2, I liked it. I liked it at the time. It's a good little lineup for £2. What can you say? Looking back at them now, the Snakes one is actually the most interesting in terms of its lineage and the way it plays, because that's quite an interesting game in that it's Tron, essentially, Light Cycles and all of that. But they all have a bit of a layer of importance, don't they, these games, in some way or other. Don't know if it had been lost a bit at the time. Nowadays, of course, we'd all look back and go, oh, the Reverie and everything else. But it's all right. £2, wasn't it? So what can you say? Did it deserve silver medal, though? Is it that good? I don't know. What about you?
Well, I bought this. I remember buying this. Well, you bought Toadforce.
Everyone bought it.
Yeah, well, you bought Toadforce. I bought Arcade Classics.
No, I bought this as well. I had this. I think I had it for the music at the time. I was away to it, but now I look back, I think.
I think I just bought it because I wanted Space Invaders in my house. So this was the only way I was going to get a Space Invaders. So it's 4 Arcade Classics, the price of one budget title. It sounds quite the bargain. Especially if you factor in that 2 of the games we've listed are proper Arcade Classics, Space Invaders and Asteroids.
Yeah,
they're they're held in high regard.
They were, what, 40 quid each on the Atari 2600 or something like that?
Probably that, and crap. Whilst the other two are variants on games from around that time. But I'd say Space Wars is a classic for a different reason. Obviously, it's one of the earliest, earliest of earliest games, 1961 or whatever it was, 62. But this version of it, I think, is probably based on is it Computer Space, which was the Nolan Bushnell release, wasn't it? The 1971.
Something like that, yeah.
It was that one version, but it's one of them. Anyway, Space Invaders is best of the bunch, I thought, because I think it's pretty faithful to the original. It feels, someone will probably go, no, it's not, the speed's off of that. Well, look, I'm not that massive a fan of it. It looks and feels and plays like Space Invaders. As you said, it speeds up, the sounds are there. I enjoyed my time with it. I can shoot through the barriers and things like that. And it felt like Space Invaders, so I enjoyed my time with it. Asteroids felt weird. It felt too fast. I don't know. There's something up with the movement, and I don't know why they didn't map hyperspace to down on the joystick.
That would have made sense.
Because forward to thrust, down to hyperspace, left and right to turn. There you go, and shoot, fire. I think you're right when saying that Minter with the Minter or that pod, Sean Southern one, because the nauseous colours of that snake maybe go after a while. It's a bit full on in it. Nice mechanics though, in the fact that if you hit the snake tail, you have to be more than halfway along from the head to eat the tail. If you're closer to the head than the tail, then you die. So some quite nice mechanics in that, but 2 players, so I never got to play it that much. Same with Space Wars, I tried, but the gravity's a bit kind of overblown in that. As you've rightly noted, good tune. Interesting tune, one I remember. I don't think I played this much though. I think I played Space Invaders for a bit, tried the others, and then never really got on with them that much. So I just go back to it every now and again for a bit of Space Invaders, because I just felt there was something off in Asteroids the way from the arcade. And if I wanted to play 2-player stuff, if someone came round, I think, well, probably both you and I at this point had better stuff to play. Pit Stop 2, summer games. There's loads of different games. Druid, Whizball, all these kind of stuff that you'd put on instead. It's an interesting release, this, but I don't know. It feels like 2 out of 4 because I don't know whether it's a licensing thing. Even something like Pong or something. But really, should it have been 4 single player games? Berserk, Defender, Missile Command, Centipede. Yeah. If it's calling yourself arcade classics, I would have expected those things to be in there. Berserk probably could have been done, I'd have thought, quite easily. Centipede, we've seen Centipede clones all over the place. Yeah. Missile Command, I don't think would have been too much. Defender could have been I don't know. It's all right. 90%, I think, because I think there's value here for £2, and it I don't know of the lineage of Space Invaders games on the C64 whether there had there been an official one at any point. I have no idea.
No idea.
There's variants. I know there'd be loads of variants. But I don't know whether there's an original one. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But I think this is a good version of it. So yeah, it's all right. £2. It's all right. Good music. Yeah, I enjoyed this back in the day for a while. For what it was. Yeah. Dip back in every now and again. Arcade classics. Yes. Can't argue with the title, I suppose. It's better than the next one, anyway.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Because our next one is Mr. Jackal and Dr. Wide, or Jackal and Wide, or whatever the hell it's called. God, the title screen. Dr. Jackal and Mr. Wide. This is definitely going in our we've got a new channel on our Discord called Loading Screams. Yes, which is quite good.
Might even be a feature we introduce at some point.
It might be, yes, as we go down the line. But this is definitely going on there. That title screen is a thing of horror.
Oh, it's just crap.
So anyway, what is Jackal and Wide? It's a pun title, though. It's a pun title, Graham.
Oh, don't.
So this better be good. So Dr. Jackal has finally perfected the transforming potion, but he cannot reverse its disastrous results unless he can find the antidote hidden in Dr. Peaked's secret underground laboratory. He'll remain as Mr. Wide forever. Now, so proclaims the back of the box. So what we have here then is, instead of turning into a monster, the beast within us, the not too subtle examination of repressed anger and guilt and all the negativity we bottle up inside us by Robert Louis Stevenson, we turn into a fat person with a stupid jump in the pursuit of some shit pun take on the title. That's what we have here. So, I've lost myself there. Hang on a minute. Yeah, so not to sound too picky, just go to the gym or take up rowing or running.
Yeah. Well,
people lose weight all the time. It's not the same as turning into a beast. You just get on the treadmill, do a few laps around the park, and stop eating cakes. This game is fundamentally stupid. So it's a port from the Spectrum original, which is by Stephen Curtis, who had already given us such joys as Terra Cognita and Non Terracus. And this C64 version is presided over by Jim Baguli of Deathwake, Storm, and Max Headroom delights.
God.
So with all this going for it, it must be a winner, right? Right?
Yeah.
Jackal and Wide is a 2-stage arcade adventure come platformer thing that even everyone's a Wally would look askance at. This is a dreadful, dreadful thing with terrible mechanics and awful visuals. The game starts with a bare bones title screen after the god-awful loading screen. It's just, I think keyboard, joystick, start game, whatever. We're given a list of instructions when we press fire, which make no sense. I couldn't make head nor tail of them. And once you pass there, you press fire, it's onto a top-down view of Hyde Park. See what they did there? Did you see
Clever.
what they did there?
Very clever.
Very clever. Where it looks like you are careering about on a bike of some description, but it's hard to tell. Who knows? You can wander this bi-directional vertical scrolling park, picking up stuff and wondering just what you're supposed to be doing with any of it. You pick up rocks, you pick up stuff. I don't know. Should you fancy heading underground, you can head back down to the bottom of the map and you press spacebar on the underground entrance near the start. And here you enter the bizarre platform section with the single most ridiculous of jumps I have yet seen.
Yeah,
and we've seen some ridiculous jumps, but this is the winner so far. So you control Mr. Wide. Look, he's fat and it's funny. And you must move through these screens, jumping over obstacles. So you walk left and right, and you push up to jump. So when you jump forward, you'd expect to be jumping at an angle like most games would do. Except no, you just go straight up to the top of the jump arc. Then once you reach the top, Mr. Wide moves forward, the length of the jump, then stops and starts to fall. So he jumps at 90-degree angles. That is just stupid. And this happens at a rate that would make icebergs seem speedy. If you hit anything in this section, you lose some of your health, which is represented by a bar on the screen. And you will hit them because jumping over them takes forever. And by the time you've landed, you're coming back down. They're coming back from their patrol thing, so you're just going to hit them again. And they move at the same speed as you. So then you're stuck in that on them, losing energy, and you can't get away from them. And it's just all awful. You can move into other rooms by pulling down when in front of stairs or archways. There are more bizarre objects. They will no doubt hit you as you do not move fast enough to avoid anything. And of course, death will not be far away because you can't get away from them. They just move on to you and you're too big. And that's the joke in it. This is a deeply unpleasant game in all respects. It looks like crap, controls like crap, and the whole idea behind it is moribund and horrible. It got 29% for some reason, and again, I do not feel that they played half of these games. There's no way this is 3% worse than Lazer Force. There's just no way in hell. It's a joke. It's borderline unplayable because of the crappy jump in the underground section, and it's very enjoyable and it's painful to endure. It's crap on every level that a game can be crap on. I hated this. So, yeah, Jackal and Wide. What did you think?
What the hell was this bloody thing? What is it? Half-hearted Spectrum conversion of something. Some god-awful thing. Just don't throw turds at a computer and expect it to be a playable game at the end of that, which is clearly what happened here. There's nothing here to offer. It's crap graphics, really bad play, doesn't work properly really, I don't think. Really awful sound effects, such as there are. You wander around that stupid Hyde Park thing with the crappiest control system ever. Why do I have to press return to if I press the take, drop, or list menu, why do I have to press return to exit that? Why can't I just move afterwards? Then when I go into the controls, as you rightly point out, when you go into, if you bother to enter the caves, because there's no real explanation as to what any of the little objects you pick up do anyway. When you go into the caves, I'm guessing you can use them in some way, but it's just the same. It's more of the worst horror. Really badly drawn graphics, really crap controls, that weird leap as you described. And the only thing good is that you can suffer a quick and merciful death, because that means that at least you don't have to last longer in this game. It's awful. Absolutely awful. Just crap. Just rubbish. Utter rubbish. 199's worth of shite. And 29%, give me it. Are you having a laugh? Just go away. Rethink your life, because it isn't 29%. It should have been no percent. It's rubbish. It's utterly shit. No. There's no redeeming qualities of this game, from its pun title to its stupid everything. Crap.
Yeah. And I like the original story as well. Dr. Jackal and Mr. Hyde. I like it. So
I would rather shit in a chip pan.
Cook it and eat it.
Yes, I'd rather do deep fried shit than to entertain that piece of crap again. It's awful.
I knew I was fearing that this would be bad, but I wasn't quite prepared for how bad it was.
No.
Some games actually take your breath away. in the, you know, in
the bad ways.
They do. It's like, you're just like, oh, this is so bad. What were they thinking? Who was, oh, Christ on a bike. You know, you've not got a high point to come from Terra Cognita and Ontarakas.
No. And Jim Baguli seems to struggle with these games. Just stop doing them, I think.
Yeah. I don't know what's
becoming
going on.
the early ball of games.
Jim Bagui Vol. Very good. Oh, there we go. Jackal and Wide. Oh, Christ on a bike.
No.
4 more left. 4 more. We're through this month. Graham, next up is a full pricer. This is Prohibition.
Prohibition. Infogrames did this.
They did.
Prohibition is a shoot 'em up that takes place in the 1930s, New York, and it's all about gangsters. You've been hired by the police to get rid of them, and you do this by you face a row of buildings, gangsters pop up, and it's the visual equivalent of whack-a-mole. So you got to shoot them before the on-screen timer goes down. Unless he shoots you first, you can hide until the timer restarts, but that's doing that's also limited. The end of each stage is a bonus round where we have to shoot gangsters in a room. With no more ability to hide and a faster timer. As you progress through each stage, the game becomes faster and harder and more difficult. And repeat, because that's all there is to this game. So the goal, if your goal was ever to reach the end of this game, you are never going to. It just goes on and on forever until you get a decent score, because that's kind of what it is. It is what it is. So that's kind of the aim of the game. I suppose it's an Operation Wolf type idea, isn't it? That you've got crosshairs that you move across the screen and shoot with.
Yes.
I'm being generous when I say that.
You are.
But it's that idea of, you have a crosshairs and you're shooting at things. It reminded me of, the same problems as the moving the crosshairs around to shoot the people of that Living Daylights game. And that was an unplayable piece of crap as well. So I suppose all you can say about this game is that it's just doing that. And the graphics are passable. There's nothing amazing about it. There's lots of brown. Nothing amazing. Again, New York is brown in all the C64 games. And the brown New York is black. Well, reddy brown.
Yeah, red brick, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just, there's no real redeeming qualities to this game. I didn't enjoy my time. It's just, as soon as I played the first bit and I realised that I'm going to be doing this and only this, I thought, hang on a minute, this is £10. I need a bit more game for my money here. Give me some more game for money, you robbers. I didn't think there was much to it. I thought
there isn't.
No, the gameplay was just, what can you say? It should have been a budget game, and maybe it would have been passable at that, but it isn't. By the way, this game made The Index. Do you know that? The Index.
What do you mean, The Index?
The Index is the BPJS or the BPJM index of games, means that in Germany, this game was illegal. It was illegal to sell. It was illegal to make any index games available to minors in Germany, and it's illegal to advertise them in any form, including putting them on store shelves or publishing reviews in gaming magazines. The games technically disappear from the public. The only way to actually buy those games is under the desk, so under the counter. So this game was put on that list.
Why was that?
I don't know. Maybe it's just shit, and I thought no one needs to see that shit. And, they did the right idea.
Absolutely. What's this index of? Is it terrible games? Is there loads of violence? No, they're just shit.
Yeah, just shit. No, I don't know what other horrors are on the list. There is a list of the games that are on the index, which I put in the show notes, so you can explore that at your leisure. But I didn't enjoy this because for 2 reasons. One, the gameplay itself was simplistic but repetitive and really boring and just endless and boring. And once you there's nothing, you can't get better at it because eventually you're never going to be able to move your crosshairs in time to get anybody because it just gets faster and faster and more difficult. Second thing, full price, no. 50%, 49% they gave this. No way is this 49%. It's a rip-off. And I suppose it works. And there's no bugs in it, so it doesn't crash or anything like that. But nah, not for me. I didn't enjoy it. About you?
No, what a good dull game this is, and full price. Jesus, when someone puts out a game like this, you put one of theirs in the morgue.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So what is there to this game? It's 5 times the price, and it's essentially the town shootout section of Kane.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, forgot about Kane. Yeah,
Kane, because that has four times. That's 5th of the price and 4 times as many games. Graphically, it is good. The sprites and the hoodlums I thought were quite well drawn. They fit the theme.
Yeah, all right.
The background skulls around smoothly, but that's all it's got to do, isn't it? Yeah. Once you get a hang of the scattergun shot of your Tommy gun, there's little else to learn. And doing this, and the game just goes on forever. I was playing this for ages.
Yeah, it does. It's just what I mean. It just meanders, and then
it never seems to get. I don't think it ever got any harder. They offered no escalating challenge. I always found them within about a couple of seconds and shot them. It's just the same thing over and over and over as the ragtime music plinks away in the background.
Oh, the music!
Yeah, after many minutes of this, if that, I don't know, I can't remember. It felt like forever. I was done with this. What a waste and what a rip off. £10. £10 for essentially. I mean, yes, it's Operation Wolf, but Operation Wolf has stages, levels, different bosses, challenge, loads of stuff going on. If they'd have made something more of this feels like the bonus intermediary stage of another game.
Yeah, it does. It is properly a sort of a bonus stage or something.
It is, yeah. It's like there's the bit you've managed to get your way through, you've fought out, or you've. It's like as if you were driving. It feels like if you were driving around a city or something, and you had to get to a location, then shoot them. So there was a top-down view of the city, driving around, and you get there and you shoot them, and then you earn some money and you drive off, and there's other things to do. That's what this kind of feels like. It feels like one stage of a bigger game, and they've gone, oh no, just release that for a tenner. That'll do.
Yep,
Does anything else happen? No. Why not?
Rubbish.
Yeah. Oh God, this month. Let's hope we've got 3 left.
Keep on trucking.
3 left. Let's keep going. Because we're off to sea again in our next one. This is a... Yeah, absolutely. All aboard for the Pirates of the Barbary Coast. That's it. Another pirate game hoves into view and attempts to board us as we brace the main brace and shimmy down the rigging. This is Pirates of the Barbary Coast. And whereas the last Pirates game, which was Pirates, saw us off in the Americas, this takes place along the Barbary Coast, which is the north coast of Africa, from Morocco to Libya, and the series of ports therein. So this was developed by Starsoft Development Laboratories. Now there's a name with too much, someone thought too much themselves and gave them that name, didn't they? Probably some bloke. And it's the first one we've had from them. It was coded by Rob Mickelson, with graphics by Carrie McCormick, Joe Krishlik. The Klingons are back. I can't pronounce that name.
It's back again.
Yeah, and Mike Carlock. Mike Carlock. That can't be a real name.
No, just keep going. Keep going.
In Pirates of the Barbary Coast, you have 30 days to raise the ransom of 50,000 pieces of gold as your daughter, Catherine, has been kidnapped by Bloodthroat the Pirate.
Oh, stupid. It's like there's some really good pirate names.
Why would you go with Bloodthroat? No one's called Bloodthroat.
Why don't you just go with Blackbeard? There's no copyright on it. It's okay.
No, none. Otherwise, he's going to sell her into slavery. So that's the plot. You've got 30 days, raise the money, or take the fight to Bloodthroat and get your daughter back. The game starts with you sailing out of Casablanca and picking another port to head to. And you can select from Tangier, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, Benghazi, or Tobruk. Once done, you weigh anchor and wait to see if the journey is uneventful or if you get into a cannon battle. And I'll come to the specifics of the cannon battling later. Once you arrive in port, you can repair your ship from any damage you may have taken from your cannon battles. You can buy goods, you can sell goods, you can head to the shop, or you can head back out to sea. If you decide to trade, you get this. You're greeted by a sort of image of a sort of a man in period clothes with long wiggy hair, that kind of thing, sort of bowing towards you, and it's that look from the 16th century, and that's the visual. So then you can choose from that. So you got a little menu at the bottom, and most of this is controlled by an arrow that you move around with the joystick, and that's how you select stuff. If you choose trading, it shows a back view of your ship with loads of sections in it, and each section has some goods in it, and you can trade these goods. You can buy or sell, and you have a number of goods to trade in. They range from silk to cocoa and muskets and rum and all manner of stuff. You can try and haggle for better prices, but be wary because they don't like haggling too much, and then if you offend them, they won't sell you anything of that, or they won't buy anything off you for that. So be careful about that. If you head to the store, here it allows you to hire more men. If some of your men died in cannon fights, you can get more food because obviously you need food while it's out on the ocean. You can buy cannonballs to make sure you've got enough for fighting with. You can pay for rumors of what's going on. It's essentially just they go, rum is selling for a lot in Tangiers. That's never good when you're actually in Tangiers, but that kind of thing does happen, and that sort of thing. So you can head for it. You can try and get them stuff. Once all this is done, there's little more else to do. So you go back out to sea to head to another port as you try and raise the money. So essentially, this is a trading game rather than a pirating game. If you are set upon, though, whilst sailing, you can choose to flee. But if you choose not to, essentially what you get is a side-on view of the side of your ship behind your cannon men. What do they call them? Firers? I don't know what is there a term?
Cannon men.
I don't know what's the term for
soldiers.
Someone who loads a cannon and fires it. Cannon man.
Cannon ball.
Right on, Tommy. Load that cannon.
Artilleryman, I think, maybe.
Artilleryman, that'll do, yeah. So you got to load your cannons and then fire them. Right, now to save you the trouble of trying to find how you do this, it's tricky. This is how you do it, right? So along the bottom is all your cannons. There's sort of a graphical representation, a little graphical representation of all your cannons. So you've usually got about 19 of them. Click on all of them, first of all. Essentially, you'll be loading. That'll tell all your cannons to load and follow this procedure. So the little icon will turn green. Click on them. Pick any of your artillerymen, because you can scroll along them. There's arrows, so you can scroll along from across all 19 men. And you kind of need to, because you have to fire them manually. So this is what you do. Okay, you click on there's a little white bag next to the cannon, just to the top right of the cannon. Click on that, then click back on the cannon. Okay, next click on the yellow-headed pole held by the artillery guy, and then click on the cannon again. Then click on the bucket, which is to the left of the cannon. Click back on the cannon, and then finally the black brush to the left of the cannon, and back. Click on the cannon again. Do those things in that order, those 8 things, and then your cannons are ready to fire. You can only fire once, and then you've got to do this whole process again, by the way. What should happen now? The yellow light, because you click on, there's a load button, which you need to click first. Before you do all that, there's a load button. Click that. It'll turn yellow. Once you've done all that, that load button will go off. And I thought that the fire button would turn yellow at that point. No, it doesn't. But you can now fire. So if you press fire, your little sparkles light up on your cannon and it'll fire its cannonball off. All the time while you're doing this, the enemy ship is moving from left to right on the horizon, and it's getting closer, basically, and it's firing shots back at you. And these will hit your ship and kill some of your artillerymen, and thus you cannot fire those cannons because you have to fire them all individually. And once one is fired, you've got to go through that whole process of loading them again. You can change the elevation of your shot as well. So kind of like we saw in Star Paws, kind of like we saw in Defender of the Crown. You've got to guess, or even going back to Beachhead, I guess, you've got to guess the elevation of where the ship is. It will tell you if you've missed, so if you're just completely off by you've missed. But if you're aiming towards it, it will tell you whether you're too long or short. If you get a hit, so you've got to basically, if you're too long, go to the next one, bring your cannons down a bit, fire again, get where it is and try and hit it. If you hit it, should you hit the enemy ship 3 times, if you hit it once, flames will start to come off the ship. If you hit it 3 times, because once you've got the distance, it's just a case of just getting to a different cannon artilleryman and firing. You should be able to hit it. If you hit it 3 times, you have the choice. You can decide to board her, and here you can raid the hold or read the log, but not both, as you don't have time. Essentially, raid the hold, because if you read the log, all it says is rum is going for a lot in Tangiers. It's like, why would the captain say that? That's all I found everywhere. It's stuff like that. So just raid the hold. You need money, so get money. Once this is all done, you head back to port and this process starts all over again. And really, that's the main issue with this game. There's really not enough of a game here to engage you for very long. The trading's pretty boring and limited, and the fighting is quite dull and cumbersome and overly long. The visuals are okay. They're a mix of like static graphic screens when you're met at port, the back of your ship, and the from behind on the artillery guys. They're okay with characters and locations, side of your ship fighting, but there's nothing particularly special here. It's not brilliant. It's just all right. Looks like it's drawn in koala paint, a lot of it. The sound is non-existent, really. There's barely anything, and there's not much atmosphere to this game, and it all became quite rote in very little time. You just do the same thing. It's a trading game. It's not a pirate game. This is a trading game. The loading is also painful to endure, and I ended up using 200% speed on the emulator to make this game in the least bit playable, as every decision leads to another loading wait, and it also becomes trying very fast. Just remember to put it back down to 100% when you're doing the cannon fights. If you want a pirate game, play Pirates, and if you want a trading game, play Star Trader or something like that, which I played loads of. I don't mind trading games when it's about trading, but this is kind of there's nothing to this. There's not enough to this to keep you engaged once you've gone through the loop of travel and fighting a couple of times. So yeah, you may be a pirate on the Barbary coast, but if you run a pirate game, for God's sake, play Sid Meier's Pirates. It's way, 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 way better than this. It's all right. What did it get? It got 57%, which is about right. It's painfully average, this game. It's just boring fighting, getting in the way of trading, and really that's all you're actually doing. I didn't particularly get much from this. What about you? Did you enjoy your time pirating on the Barbary coast?
With this, no. It's always the same, isn't it? There's no pirate games, and then all of a sudden there's loads of pirate games. I'll say loads too, but there's probably more to come. This one's living in the shadow of this. You talk about releasing your game at the wrong time.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is in the shadow of Sid Meier's masterpiece Pirates, which I was only playing again the other day. So this is the Aldi brand version of that, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's not as good. The story is quite compelling.
Pirates on the little coast.
I like the fact that it's got a kidnap and ransom and revenge are all good piratey things. You never get to do any good piratey things, though, because what that sounds like is really good stuff. What it is you've got to just trade to get the money to either decide what to do, which is boring. So I thought the game was poor, pretty slow, dull. Firing the cannons was just a laborious nightmare. And instead of it being an exciting battle, which even Pirates manages to capture in its own little way, all the fun is just hoovered out of this. So you just end up it's all rote, mechanical, trying to figure what does what, and it's all about the process, not about the fun of actually trying to shoot the ship. And it feels, it's just a bit weak. And that's what the game logic of this is. It's all those things. It's taken all the mundanity of what needn't have been mundane and just made a game out of the really mundane bits of being a pirate, which is really silly. I mean, if you imagine if this transfer the logic of this game to something like The Secret of Monkey Island, and it would just, you remove all the humor and fun out of it, and it's just Guybrush Threepwood wandering around asking for stuff.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Maybe not, maybe getting it, maybe not. It's the most boring parts of all of that, all the piratey adventure stuff, with all of that adventure stuff taken out. I wanted to like it more. Generally, I like these kind of things, but this was scrappy, and I had a feeling in the back of my mind, maybe this has been rushed to be released because of pirates. Maybe they'd got wind there was a Pirates game and thought, we've got to get this pushed out because otherwise we're not going to make any money with it.
Yeah.
And so I think, it felt that some sequences were just clearly weren't the finished article. The map screen to me didn't look like it was finished. It looked like it was bitty and not very well done and an afterthought. Mm-hmm. All of this wraps up into what is a dull multi-loading bore of a game. I no more want to play this than I want to play Elite. If I want to trade things, I'm probably going to do it in Elite because at least there's a sci-fi nuances to it. But no, I don't want to do this in this. I don't want to travel around in it. And even if I get into a battle, I can't be bothered with all that faffing about with the cannons. I just want to fire the cannons because that's exciting to do that. And the fun of that and doing those things is what Pirates captures. What this captures is none of that. And it makes what should be something exciting and adventurous and quite interesting into something really boring about whether there's rum or not at a certain place at a certain time. So no thanks. I think this is just annoying, bad to control. Even the arrow was annoying me at the end to try and control it round, which is something you don't get in Pirates. Again, just go and play Pirates. If you want to play a piratey game, go and play Pirates. If you just avoid this one, this is missing all of the key elements that would make a game like this interesting anyway. So the review, £10. All right, it's half the price of Pirates, but they gave it 57%. It's nowhere near. It's way less than half the fun. I would have put this around the sort of 30% for me. So no. Play Pirates. Don't play this.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. I may have been a little bit more lenient on it, but yeah, play Pirates. Why would you? What this does have, I'll tell you what it does have. If you look back at the advert, I kept seeing this for a while coming up. It's a really good advert, really good case, really good artwork.
Yeah. Some production values are there.
So there's some quality on the artwork, and which may have suckered you into it, but as a game in and of itself, it's just repetitive and dull. It's a shame. Anyway, there you go. Pirates of the Barbary Coast. Nope. Surely we've got a good one. Surely. Let's move along and see if we've got one next. Are you the Enforcer?
Another one from Gavin Rayburn.
Another one.
Did the music on this one under the pseudonym Gax, I think. But this is obviously the guys we said before: Equalizer, Thunderbolt, Terminator. Films on his shelf. So imagine there was a really dodgy film on there as well. So what do you mean you want to call this?
Debbie Does Dallas.
Debbie Does. It sounds a bit obtuse. This is nothing. This is a game about collecting diamonds and feeding pigs. Anyway. So this isn't about that. This is something completely different. In the Enforcer, you play a robot that has to explore and collect parcels over various levels in the Drudge Caverns, while shooting or avoiding various creatures that roam around the levels. It's a platform game, scrolls in different directions when you move your robots, and you can jump and climb ladders. If you touch any creature or deadly objects, as they're referred to in the blurb, you lose parts of your meter, and when this reaches 0, it's game over. All the parcels needed to be collected are within a time limit, so you've got little things on the floor that act as checkpoints as you walk over them. So you've basically got to collect the stuff in the time limit, avoid the stuff, don't hit anything, and all of that. It's actually been quite difficult to find much out about this game. So yes, you do play some kind of robot of a sorts, and yes, you have to go around and shoot things in the caves. And as far as I can ascertain, that's all for score. There's no greater, and you collect the things. I don't know if there's more to it because I couldn't find much more to it. The graphics are quite nice in this. They're okay. The whole game just feels incomplete. So it doesn't feel to me like there's the finished game here. It feels like there's maybe 75% of a game. The Zap review cites some arcade called Trojan as inspiration. I think this owes far more to Ghosts and Goblins than anything else.
Yes, absolutely.
So I don't think Trojan is anything to do with it, unless Trojan was inspired by Ghosts and Goblins. And I looked at the arcade, and it was literally nothing like it. Whereas this, especially if you get to the second, well, I say the second level, if you get to the second tier, second level, whatever the hell it is, this game, it goes to the same blue and white sort of icy landscape scene as the second level in Ghosts and Goblins. It's very similar. Scrolling was okay. There's loads of bugs in it, though. Loads of bugs in this. I walked off to the left at the beginning, just fell 60 miles down and landed on about the fourth level, I think. I don't quite know what happened.
Oh, I never had that. Fair enough.
So there's loads of bugs in it. And the scrolling was all right. Your sprite is quite large, albeit it's got the most pointless duck of any sprite we've come across yet, because you duck him down, you don't really duck, I don't know what it is. Just I don't know what you call that. You can't. He doesn't duck low enough to avoid anything, so it's not a duck. It's just a bob. I don't know what it is. Bob, duck. I don't know. And there's some varied enemies, but what are they for? What's the purpose of the games? I suppose the purpose is to get in the way. I think it all feels unfinished. I suspect it is. It doesn't offer you much in exploratory player adventure because it all seems a bit pointless, and that makes it boring. Interestingly, though, there was a audio recording, an audio track on the B side of this called "The Equalizer" by something called Hex. Which it took me a while to track down, but I found it on SoundCloud. So I'll post that in the show notes. It's a really weird synth track, like a synth house track. It's really odd. I don't know quite why it's on there. Maybe Gavin Rayburn is I don't know. I could not find much out about that audio track at all, other than the fact that it existed. And finding information about this game was really difficult. There isn't a lot written about it, about what it's all about or what it's for. I couldn't even find it in the games that were.
Yeah, it's because there's another game, isn't there, called Enforcer, which
is the sequel. Well, it's the sequel to Catechist, so and that looks amazing. So when we get to that, wow! But
which kind of then nullifies everything written about this. It's hard to find anything. I couldn't find anything.
So I suppose the question is, did I like it? No. There wasn't much to play. It looked nice, and if the game was finished, maybe there'd be something to it, but it wasn't. So I just wandered around, shooting periodically and not ducking, and then thinking, where am I? Then falling off 9 million platforms and landing at the bottom, going, all right, well, now I'm here. I didn't die, so that's probably a good thing. But other than that, what was the point? I don't know.
Maybe you found a secret cheat way through. Maybe it wasn't a bug. Maybe it was made to be.
If I would challenge anyone, start the game up and then walk to the left, and then you'll just fall off the edge. And you can push to the right as you fall, and you'll land on another platform 50 miles down.
Oh, I'll give it a go. Yeah, Enforcer. It's got 74%, didn't it? It's the one-man coding tidal wave that is Gavin Rayburn. It's game number 9, according to the main title screen. It must be like he must be doing a game a month.
But why is it 74%?
I don't know why it's 74%, if actually I'm honest. I don't know. No. And this time it's based on the Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry film, The Enforcer.
If only,
or more accurately, this is Gavin Rayburn does Ghosts and Goblins, is what I put.
Yep.
It bears all the hallmarks of his other games. Getting better technically, good visuals, rock hard gameplay. Just a bit off. It's just off from the original. Odd enemy sprites and decent music. If you had more than one life, this would be okay. But I kept getting easily to the same bit over and over again, and to die because of the stodgy controls and trying to jump over those spikes. I kept dying there. It was dead annoying. So, is what it is. So I found it got more frustrating because it was dead easy to get to that bit, and then I die. And I'm like, okay, give me another life or start me back. Something he did in the other one we looked at, Lazer Force, he doesn't do in this one. Like, start you there. It just kills you. It just seems way more harder. I don't know. Stodgy controls. It's frustrating. It's a bit annoying. It's £2. Would it's been okay? Maybe. I don't know. It's just churning these titles out. I mean, the man is prolific, but I think you're right. This feels like it's not as good as some of his others, but again, I think it's just him. It's just learning stuff, isn't he? He's just like, right, I'm going to give Ghost and Goblins a go. I'm going to give this a go.
Yeah.
So because I think those flamey bits that coming out from the side, they reminded me of like something like Salamander or something.
Yeah, just don't release them.
Yeah, that is there. But as we've seen, to be fair though, this is better than some of the full price guff we've been looking at. So
yeah, it is. It just didn't feel like it didn't feel complete. I think that this is not a finished game.
No, you may be right. I mean, I didn't get anywhere near the finish because it's just too damn hard. And you're probably right. 74% is maybe they got further in and saw more stuff. I don't know. But what can you say? Mr. Rayburn and Carl Hornell are propping up the C64 game library with release after release. Kind of weird because I never heard of these people before. Although anyway, there you go. Enforcer, we've got one more left. Let's get into some black magic. Ooh. So yes, black magic. This is a full pricer. This got 77%. And Graham, for an entire century, the land of Marigold has laboured under the tyrannical rule of the Red Warlock, Zargrim.
He makes them make kitchen gloves.
He does. The populace cower in their houses in the royal ballrooms of the late King Taurus are now home to nothing but prisoners. Foul demons roam the lands, and cemeteries are all that remains of the lush farmlands. This is where you come in. After the wizard Goth, who was teaching you magic, was killed, you discovered a parchment that explained what went on 100 years ago. It turns out that Zagrim defeated Anakar the Wise, turned him to stone, stole his 6 eyes, and then scattered them about the land so that he could witness the evil that Zagrim would wreak upon the kingdom. It's quite nasty, that. It's quite evil.
Yeah.
If you could somehow find the lost 6 eyes of Anakar and put them back in the statue, you might just have a chance to overcome Zagrim's evil rule once and for all. So, armed with your map of the kingdom and a couple of basic spells, you set out on your quest. That's black magic. Not black lamp, as I called it, which is a completely different game. This was programmed and designed by Peter Ward. First thing he's done, he will go on to make another game called Mainframe, which I think comes out next year. So I've not heard of it, so maybe we'll see it. Screenshots of it, though, look very similar to this, I have to say. But we'll see anyway. But from there, he's gone on to work on loads of games. He worked through the PlayStation era. It looked like he ended up at Avalanche Studios and worked on the Disney Infinity games.
Wow.
So that's where he went. Small acorns and stuff. Anyway, the game itself is another strange hybrid. It's a little like Ghosts and Goblins. A lot like Ghosts and Goblins, actually. It's a bit of an RPG, but it also reminded me of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. I don't know if you've seen the second Zelda game, that 2D one, because that had come out in January. That came out in January 1987.
Right.
And this did remind me of that a little bit. So it's a multi-directional scrolling game where you run along platforms, shoot plants and other enemies with your limited number of arrows, collect stuff, and gain experience as you go to level up. There's not very much depth to the RPG elements, I have to say. You basically have 4 levels that you can go through. You start off as an apprentice, and when you're an apprentice, you have access to 2 spells. Those spells are Vanish, which lets you disappear for a brief time and go past things, and Blink, which transports you randomly nearby, which I found very frustrating because it never transported me to where I wanted to be. As you recruit XP, you move up through the ranks to Wizard, where you gain the Chill and Trap spells, Sorcerer, where you get Conjure and Fire spells, and finally topping out as a Necromancer, where you get the Fear and Bolt spells. So as you run about the world, so this is a 2D side-on, think Ghosts and Goblins, you're not too far off. All right, that's the visual look of this. There are numerous items to pick up, from extra ammo for your arrows, scrolls, which increase your spells by 1, food, which increases your food stat, prisoners trapped in cages who can be freed by running over them, and finally the eyes of Anakar themselves. The UI is across the bottom of the screen and shows your current level, your XP, your health and food amount, along with how many arrows and spells you have left, and the depth level of your current location. So this game, it came with a map of the land itself, and you could follow yourself around. And it actually says to you, please write on the map and draw on the map so you can note down where things are as you progress from, as you go from time to time as you play it. And that's what you got to do. So it doesn't take up too much, the UI doesn't take up too much screen space, because most of the screen is taken up with the scrolling action, and that's a good thing. So that's all right. So this is all add up to a solid game. It got 77%. Sort of. It's got some issues. It doesn't look that great. The sprites are quite simplistic. You've got an animated main character, but he's very oddly drawn. He's very one colour and chunky. I don't quite understand. Anyway, he's there. But they did the job, and the sprites around the place, the prisoners in cages, I thought were some kind of golem at first. I don't know what they were. The plants look like someone's had the Ghost and Goblins plants described to them, and tried to try and had a go at drawing them. There's bats. There's all kinds of stuff floating about. There's these weird things. The sprites, this is pretty simplistic, but they did the job. The sound effects are pretty minimal, although the epic prog type tune on the title screen was something I was not expecting. It's really weird tune on the title screen, because in the review it said there's no music, but there's this crazy proggish weirdness. Reminded me of that. What was that other one? Was it Starion?
Yeah, it's that sci-fi game, wasn't it? That really big sort of, Yes got involved at some point.
It did, and no one said no to them, because no one says no to Yes. The controls are simple enough: left and right for run, and up for jump. Though there's no running jump, which I don't understand. It would have been very helpful. So essentially, if you want to go up a thing, you better hope to the ladder nearby. If you want to go up a platform. The fire button has 2 uses. If you press it when running, you shoot your arrows in the direction you're heading. So if you're running to the left, press it, you'll fire to the left, and so on. If you press it when stood still, however, this gains you access to your spells. And then it'll come up, which spell do you wish to cast? You've got it'll say abort first, which isn't a spell. It just means don't cast anything. So you can scroll through them and you can choose to cast them as long as you've got spells left. So you need to collect those scrolls, because if it gets down to 0, you can't cast any. Each cast costs 1 spell cast, basically. So there's a bit here, and the game takes place over 100 screens. So there's quite a decent amount, and it's continuous as well. It's not levels like Ghosts and Goblins. This is a continuous whole world. You're running through it. You don't come out of it at any point. You just continue the quest, and off you go. There's loads of different little bits, and there's towns and all kind of strange stuff you can find. The main problem is one we have seen before, and that is illogical and unfathomable health mechanics, I found. The 2 bars for food and health seem to be tied together in some way, but I had the instructions, I looked at the instructions, but it was never clear what that was. So it felt akin to Spellbound, I think it was, where Magic Knight would just get tired too tired to carry on and keel over dead. It kind of had that kind of feel to it. So here you can pick up food, and it'll go, yum, yum, I love that food, it's great, and your food bar will go up a notch, but almost instantly you'll get a message that you're out of food. I'm like, well, I just picked it up. What, what's this got to do with anything? And there's no real indicator of whether this is a bad thing or how it impacts on your progress or your health or anything. There's only a limited amount of food dotted about, and you're constantly running out and getting that message, which becomes very intrusive quite quickly. From there, your health just seems to drop. I don't know whether it's because I was out of food. I don't know. Or things were hitting me. My health just kept going down unpredictably and alarmingly quickly at times. Sometimes it wouldn't, and sometimes it would. And there seems to be no real way to mitigate this or understand why it was happening. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get my head around the health mechanics in this. So quite often I would just die, and I'd be like, why have I died? What's going on? And then you get that death screen, which is kind of like Manic Miner with the boot coming down. There are some nice touches though. Like collecting the first eye. There's an eye right above you when you start. You have to go up to the next level and go get it. So if you do collect the eyes, it makes loads more enemies appear. The world seems quite empty unless you collect the eye, which I guess is the result of being able to see the evil being wrought on the land, which I thought was quite a nice touch. So I would have liked to get further, because I didn't get very far into it because of that health stuff. But and I'd like to get more eyes to see what if it affects the world. There's a stat, and this really reminded me. You probably not aware of this, but it reminded me of there's a stat in Bloodborne called Insight, and the higher your insight goes in Bloodborne, it affects how you see the world. So you start seeing crazier stuff or more sort of eldritch things in the world. The higher your insight is, because you're getting a view of the world that is beyond what normal people see. And that also as well, it's actually linked to a theme in the game, which is called eyes on the inside. And there's this notion of growing eyes on the inside to be able to see this eldritch world. And that's it kind of reminded me of that. It's kind of quite a link. But that's that. I didn't like the inability to do a running jump, as it felt like if they'd given me that, it would have made navigation easier. I found navigating the world quite problematic. And having to be running to shoot the arrows meant that I was often having to charge at enemies and getting hit as I was doing so, because you could duck under what they were firing at you, but I was just taking damage, and that was, and some enemies would take a number of arrows to hit, and obviously they're limited as well, so you can run out of them, and if you run out of arrows, you run out of spells, you're done for. It feels like it has all the requisite parts for an interesting game, this. It's just let down by poorly communicating some of its systems to the player, and maybe overcomplicating things where they didn't need to be. Simply have the food increase your health back up when you collect it. And that would have been both easy to understand and made the game more intuitive. You eat food, your health goes up. Ta-da! It's not hard. It's an interesting game, this. One I'd never played, not seen before or had a go at, but I'd quite enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the next one, Mainframe, because it looks similar to this, and maybe iron some of the faults out. It feels like some of the systems are a bit broken and not really work as well as they could have done. But I would have liked them to, and I would have liked to have got further into this, because I think there's a 100 screens of mapping and action and puzzling and what have you, just to see where it went. This was okay. It got 77%. Yeah, I mean they basically say don't judge a book by its cover in the review, and because it does look not great, but there is a decent game here. Just I couldn't quite fit all the parts together. Maybe they could. I don't know. What about you? How did you get on with Black Magic?
I mean, it's rough around the edges, isn't it? Bitty graphics, quite small, bit blocky, but there's a nice arcade adventure in there. There's hints of Ghosts and Goblins, Pitfall. Amongst loads of others. It's got a lot of influences, and it wears them pretty obviously. There's lots to explore, I think. I thought the controls are relatively easy of what there are. The mechanics of the controls aren't the problem, like you say. Some of the game is just a bit too mysterious, and I think that doesn't lend itself to just the kind of play they're wanting to get you into. Sounds are pretty basic, but they're totally acceptable for what they are in this kind of game. And I quite like the little tiny endearing sort of pixel character that you wear.
Yeah, he was all right. Yeah.
Even though it's sort of overall it kind of looks a bit like a bag of crap, there is generally a really playable game in here and decent fun. And later down the line, games like this become a lot more refined, and you end up with things like Inmost for the iPhone or for Android, which is like a little pixel-based sort of game of this type, little pixel-based adventure type game. There's quite a lot of those. And so this is kind of a pre-mini pixel art adventure quest game. Yes, there's some issues with its not the controls, but the way that the game manifests and the way that it expects you to live through the adventure, and it's not helping you with the right ways. But there's some really nice parts to this, which I quite liked. So I thought, yeah, okay. I'm not so sure I like the price, but I quite like the game. And it's certainly one of the better ones of this bad bunch of nightmares. Yeah. So I was playing it for quite a while, and I'll forego the simplicity of the graphics if the game's actually got something about it. And this did have something.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It reminded me of that other one we looked at a while back on, the one that it was kind of like a magic version of Green Beret, magic something or other. The one where you were scrolling to the right, and it was because the bit in this, you can get picked up. Not Bazooka Bill, for God's sake, no. Because you can get picked up by the bird, can't you, in this, and get transported back?
Yeah.
There was that other one we looked at where you get picked up by the bird and get taken to the top level. It was called Magic something or other.
Magic, where you could jump into the sort of this logo and stuff at the top level.
Yeah. And you had different spells and stuff and things like that.
No, they're similar, actually. Yeah, again, the similar sort of vibe.
Yes. Yeah. Bit rough looking, but there's something about them that's endearing, and just wish there was something a bit more. But yeah, it was all right. It was okay, Black Magic. I didn't mind it. And I think 77% for once is about right. Yeah. There we go. That's all our games. At least we ended on something relatively okay.
I think there's something to that game.
Yeah. So what did we look at this week? Mega Apocalypse. So it's all right, isn't it? I mean,
5-channel sound.
Thank you. Yes, we got Lazer Force. Gavin Rayburn. Last Mission. No, wish it was. We've got The Tube. Stupid game. Flunky. Not aged well. Toadforce. Bouncy. Arcade Classics. Well, two of them.
Classic-y.
Classic-y. Jackal and Wide. Prohibition. It's a mini game touted out as a full price thing. Pirates of the Barbary Coast, no. Enforcer, not finished, and Black Magic, which was all right. So there we go. Oof, what a week! What a month!
What a month of stink! Stinking up the place. Bloody hell! Goodness me! I mean, there's the odd one in there that has a bit more merit, but that is a load of budgetary nightmares.
It's been bad.
Me. Remember when budget games we were surprised at how good they were for a while?
We were.
Yeah, that changed. That changed.
It did. I forgot, actually. We've actually got a couple of crap verts. I'm not sure if we've looked at one before. I think we might have done, but I can't remember. I'll put it in anyway. I'm losing a bit of track. So let's have a look at these. The first one, I don't know what...
Is it 42 Diamond, or is it just 42? What is that?
I don't know, but it was the one in the top right that caught my eye.
What, Diablo? That's how you draw an anatomy when you don't know how to draw anatomy. I know that because that's how I draw anatomy.
What is this? So who's this Bob? Is it it's Diamond.
Diamond, never heard of them.
Diamond Games. So we've got 4 games on here, but it says 42 at the top, and I'm not sure why. So I'm not sure what platform they're for, if I'm honest. It might be for the C16 or I don't know, it says CVM64 or something. So we've got 4 games on here, and they're all terribly, terribly advertised. Actually, looking at this a bit closer, let's start at the top left. We've got something called Extron, which has what looks like... do you remember Unreal? The very first Unreal?
Yeah.
That looks like one of the monsters from Unreal.
It does. And they've clearly just merged Extro and Tron together.
They have, yes. It's got, so there's a blocky robot thing running at you while in the back is a massive explosion. A huge explosion, really.
Yeah. And is that his arm coming out from the side of him, or is that his wang?
I think that's a gun in it. I think from the side. I think it's his...
from his left side, yeah.
From his
the right's
left
got
side.
a big gun, yeah. He's got a protuberance there.
Is that his arm or is his tail?
It's too low for his arm.
It could be a scorpion-type tail, whatever. It's badly drawn. Where's that red laser coming from as well?
Well, it's off. It's slightly off, but it's very powerful, isn't it? Because it looks like it's blown a city up in the background.
So is someone shooting that past him and blowing that up? So have they missed a shot? Or is that coming from his shoulder?
Just call me old-fashioned, but when there's a bright light in the background of an object, it illuminates an object's in the foreground, if they're in there. So you need to put a little bit of light on the shoulders and the edges of something like that to give it that kind of brightness feel. Otherwise, it just looks stupid and crap. So that's what that does.
In the top right is Diablo.
What the hell is that?
Do you describe this?
It's impossible to describe. That is a metal sphere on roller coaster tracks with a badly drawn silver surfer strolling along one of the tracks, looking like he's about to fist pump somebody.
Whilst everything collapses in the background.
Yeah, for some reason it's called Diablo, which makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
And the writing about the game is so ridiculously small. I can't see it, but I don't want to. I don't need to know what that's about. It just looks crap. It says
the game is very simple, really. And that's you slide across.
Is it? That image is not simple by description, is it? It's like, if you were to say, right, make me a game of this, and then describe that image to them. I want a silver guy walking on tracks being followed by a giant metal ball. Like,
with the letters NN and a red logo of some description.
Where's the ball going? I don't know. It's just it's coming from a broken city. That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
What does the silver guy look like? Imagine the Silver Surfer, but badly drawn.
Anatomically bad.
Anatomically incorrect, but strolling, just strolling and fist pumping.
With not much concern on his face.
Yeah, he's not bothered about that giant metallic sphere that's going to crush his life out of him any second.
No. In the bottom left, we have Hollywood Poker for the Atari ST.
Yeah. Do you know what's wrong with that?
I can tell you what's wrong with that. Do you want to know what's wrong with that? Go on, you tell me.
Well, first off, the hands that are on the two hands that are on there aren't the best hands in poker for a start.
Well, no.
So you got 4 of a kind, not the top hand, and then the one underneath plus is too many aces.
It's 6 aces.
If you're playing
Someone's cheating.
If you're playing the game with those two hands appear, you're going to be asking questions. Never mind the sleazy image of the woman dance thing.
Absolutely. There's two sets of red aces. Yeah, and also as well, there's a woman in a bodysuit, not bodysuit, a bikini, one-piece bikini, looking like she's just stepped out of a pop video, which I'm pretty sure she has, for no reason. So it's just crap. And then in the bottom right, chaos, which absolutely describes this advert.
That does. That's a giant... Now, that image of the rub in the background's been borrowed from Warhammer at this point.
Yeah.
So that's a Marine from Warhammer, a very early 40k Marine, that is.
And where's
bastardized and made in some kind of steampunk version, I think, before steampunk was a thing.
Where's that guy's left hand going?
Yeah, he's touching his robo-wang. He's reaching out and he's tickling his vents.
Piece.
He is, he's tickling his little vents. And he's getting to get a big pat on the head from the beast with 5 fingers by the look of it.
It's so bad.
It's just crap, isn't it? It's just crap. And chaos doesn't mean anything. It's just no.
Because it's also spelled in that horrible way of KAOS.
No. And it's gone back to having jiggedy jaggedy borders and a grid. We haven't seen that in a crap vert for quite a while.
No, and also
green grid.
And also as well, balls in the corner that are off-centered gradient.
Yeah, they've tried to go for that metallic effect. It hasn't worked because that's not how you do it. So
either that or
one side looks water damaged.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Wow, what a package of advert that is.
I don't know if they're meant to be kind of pins or something, like pinning it to the wall. I don't know, but anyway. Jiggy jaggedy lines and space grids are no way to go through drawing things. So, no.
Not. All from Diamond Games.
Oh my good God.
Oh, are you looking at the next one?
What the hell is that?
So this is Mean City from Quicksilver.
I mean, I get what they're trying to do, and I like the car on the left. I like the car and the headlights. The way they've done the headlights is cool.
Yeah, bit of bloom,
exactly. That looks the part.
The thing stood up in it though, and the thing at the front, and the guy at the back.
No, just what it's. I mean, I suppose it's demonic. I don't know. I think
it's the Mutant Federation.
He's drawn someone's granddad, hasn't he? And then fanged his face out and sort of uglified someone. They just look like an angry rock band with a bad, really ugly lead singer.
But this is, before we describe it, this is a 1 or 2 player game, arcade game for the Commodore 64 128 that will captivate, in speech marks, even the most experienced gamesman.
Gamesman? Is that
gamesman
called gamesman? No, this isn't good. The Quicksilver logo, I always hate it.
Yeah.
I hate that logo because it is just angular nastiness.
So this is, it's called Mean City. This is, it's a futuristic city in the background on a planet that's perilously close to what looks like Saturn.
Yeah.
In the sky with a gradient sky, and in the foreground there are the mutants, because the Mutant Federation and the Enclave cities are locked in struggle. Your father, the mutant leader, has been captured. You must race your evil cousin, who would be king, through the maze ways against the dangers they hold.
It's making words up, maze.
What is this? What
now,
is this?
There's lessons to be learned.
Ideas in there.
Well, there's lessons to be learned on this poster image. Firstly, just print something out properly when it's a typeface. Don't cut it out of white bits of paper. Because if you can't cut things straight with your scissors, don't try. So, and clearly they've just cut that out badly because it's really misshapen. Look at the N. Look how badly cut out that actually is.
I know.
And then you've just glued the word city on in a different font with a different colour scheme that doesn't suit anything on the image whatsoever. Stupid.
Nope.
I mean, it's supposedly the colour scheme for city is the same as the Quicksilver logo, which doesn't work when it's on blue like that. It's just crap.
Nope.
So it's odd because the drawing is better on the left than it is on the right. The city in the background thing is actually quite good, but you don't need that freakish ghoul-faced demon thing at the front clutching his spiky stick.
No, you don't. With his studded arm and his studded shoulder pads.
No, it's all a bit Mad Max. It's got a bit Mad Max vibe to that, but low budget Mad Max, Aldi Mad Max.
Yeah, he's got weird fingers as well. And what is that thing coming out on his jacket just underneath the club?
Yeah,
Like
he's
some
got
kind
three
of
fingers
tube.
on, hasn't he?
Looks like he's got a bus handle. Like
That's
something
his
you'd hold
breathing
on to if
tube.
you're on a bus.
Well, maybe this is an early version of some of the concept art for Blue Velvet, and that's the character of Frank as they envisaged him originally.
Oh, that one stood up as well. Looks particularly bad. And part of the city's on fire as well.
Yeah, I like the cityscape, and I like the car, and I like the perspective of it. I'm not so sure about the giant Saturn, but I like the idea of it. But all of that is perfunctory when you've cut the logo out of toilet paper and glued it on.
Yeah, and that writing. The writing makes no sense. Essentially, this is just going to be a top-down 2D rating game in it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to end up playing it, aren't we, at some point?
We are going to probably look at this at some point. It's out for the Commodore 64.
Yep. Oh, dear.
There we go. Some good crap verts there. Just to cheer us up. Let's have our chart. This is from Commodore User for October. In reverse order from number 10. Up to number 10 is Defender of the Crown. Down to number 9 is Roadrunner. A new entry at number 8 is BMX Simulator. New entry at number 7 is Ace 4, it says.
That's meant to be 2.
Is that? Or is... Yeah, it is.
That's Ace 4. Unless it's Cascade. Yeah, it's meant to be Ace 2.
Unless we've missed one. Missed 2 games. Down to number 6 is Eyeball. Up to number 5 is Cricket International, which we have not had the pleasure to see yet. Up to number 4 is Decathlon. That's the Activision one, so that's Firebird. Mm-hmm. Up to number 3 is Kickstart 2. Yeah. And no change in the top 2. Number 2 is World Class Leaderboard, and still reigning at number 1 is The Last Ninja.
Good old Last Ninja.
I did. What have we got? What other ones we got down here? Epics. At 11. Barbarian at 12. Run for Gold at 13. Milk Race at 14.
How?
I don't know. How is Destructo at 15?
Oh,
Football Manager still hanging in there at number 16.
Why?
The football season has started. Stop buying it.
Yeah.
Super Robin Hood. I haven't seen that one yet. 17. River Plate.
River Plate?
I don't know. That's from Firebird. They're a South, I think, Argentinian football team.
Okay,
Brazilian.
That could be niche.
And 19 is Whizball, and at number 20 is the Eddie Kidd Jump Challenge.
Okay, right. I've never played that.
No, I've never played that either. Anyway, so that's it. That's your lot. What we got coming up over our next one? We move into November. So what we got coming up over the next couple of weeks? We've got things like IK Plus,
okay,
which looks quite good. We've got something called On Q, Land of Neverwhere, Athena, Pi R Squared. We've got Renegade to look at.
Okay, excellent.
Mean City's in there. There we go.
Oh, well, we'll get to find out.
Water Polo, Anarchy. We've got Morpheus.
Okay.
QDex.
Okay, Quest for Ultimate Dexterity. Stavros is back.
Stavros is back. Scary Monsters, Blazer. We've got a game that we won't actually play, but we will mention briefly. That's called Pyramid of Time. We'll get to that later. Okay. Joe Blade, Star Fox.
Okay.
Enlightenment, right. Druid 2.
Excellent.
Tunnel Vision, Taipan, Special Agent, and Solomon's Key.
Okay.
So that game's coming up. That already sounds better than what we've just had to endure for the past.
Yeah, it does. Well, it's got IK Plus in there, so.
It's got IK Plus, it's got Renegade, it's got Morpheus, there's QDex, Enlightenment, Solomon's Key. They're all solid games.
QDex was so difficult. So difficult.
But that's it. There we go. So November looks like a bit of an uptick with at least some of the games, which is a pretty good thing. Yeah, thank God indeed. Because that's been a hard month. This has been a hard triple treat. It's not been a triple treat, has it?
No, it's not. This is like buying a 99 ice cream and finding that your flake was made of shit.
Yeah. Yes, it was. But we haven't done it. We've done episode 64, 65, 66. So I don't know if you've got them open or you can see them. we did our games from every episode. So do we pick Bubble Bobble from episode 64?
Yes.
We'll put them in here. I'm thinking probably Red LED from 65.
The only one I can remember of that.
Yeah,
bunch of
well, you got
shite.
Laurel and Hardy, Cosmonaut, Swamp
It was better than
Fever.
Hysteria and
Well, that went in
Frenesis
there.
and all that.
No, this was Return of the Mutant Camels, Ace 2, Death Race, Evening
definitely
Star,
that one, then.
Red LED. Pick from this week.
It would be the last one for me, Enforcer. Sorry, not
Black-
Enforcer,
Black
Black
Magic.
Magic, I think. Yeah. It's the only one I had most fun playing.
Yeah,
I didn't
same
enjoy
here.
the others. There's better graphics in some of the others, for sure, but it's just all of them seem to have a big problem.
Yeah, controversially not Mega Apocalypse.
No, and I can see people getting a bit, maybe having a wobble about that. But my advice is, go and replay it. And after the 19th screen of the same thing, and the novelty of the music's worn off a bit, and tell me how great it is.
Yeah, I think Black Magic's a bit more interesting. There's something there.
Yeah. It's a decent attempt at more than just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. So I'm going to, at some point when I get a little bit of time, I'm going to update the website because we have a definitive games list with those we put out from episode 64. We'll be adding these in. So, and I'm going to stick us to keep to this at least when we've finished the month. So it might not be every week, but at least we'll pick them out every month.
Makes sense.
And we'll have a game to recommend. So that definitive list will grow as it goes along. But so that's 60 odd games on there now. So you can go have a look at them. What a month. Anything else to add? Yes, if you wish to support us, you can do that. Head on over to patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. There are a couple of tiers open there at the moment. That might increase. We're not sure yet. We'll see. But at the moment, there is if you can throw us equivalent of £1, that would be great. It helps us keep the lights on. If you want to go up to the full tier, it's £4.50 or your equivalent. And that is basically access to our Discord and all the stuff going on there. You get early access to the episodes. So you get them early. There's other stuff as well.
Get to be included in the episodes as well when we do that.
Yeah, you'll get to be included in our shout outs. Also as well, when we do things like our episode 64, if we do anything special, you're being invited to partake in that. We're going to have, when we do our bread bin awards, they don't know about this yet, shall I tell them? They'll be invited to, so when we do our bread bin awards, they'll be invited to, partake in a special Patreon award of some description. So hopefully all that. So, kind of including you more within the actual episodes we're doing and things like that. So it's just fun. And when you get special access to stuff that we, the longer stuff. So any interviews we do, you'll get the full version rather than just small snippets that we might put out. So we've got all that, and there's all that already there. So if you join up, you'll get access to that immediately. And also as well, it just keeps us going and, helps us with, with the cost of things. If you can't do that, then give us a like or a share or whatever. Tell a friend, like us on iTunes or whatever it is you're reviewing us on. Follow us wherever. Join the Facebook, anything like that. It's all good. And that's it really. They got anything more to add? I'm quite tired.
No,
these games have worn me the hell out this month.
Yeah, they've worn out my eyeballs.
They have. So on that note, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Ruddings.
And we have been Zapped to the Past, and we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zap to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zap to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Ruddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.